Hello, hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. And we are here to discuss the matchup of the century. Who is a worse human being? Is it Ned or is it Cat? Now, I bring this up mainly as a joke because I found doing my reread, going over a Game of Thrones and reading comments that um, Cat gets more hate than Ned. Absolutely, from the fandom. However, if you actually compare the two, um, I'm not sure if that's really fair. Like why does Ned get the pass, and like why is Cat just hated by people? Um, and so let's go over some of the things that these characters have done. Okay, so what's really well, I mean, so let's go over Cat, which by the way, I do have to say, Cat, for all of her hate, she people don't actually ever mention the worst thing Cat did. Like Cat is actually guilty of something very, very bad, never brought up. Okay, the thing that's brought up the most is that Cat was mean to John. Okay, so she's mean to John in two ways. One, there's like the lifelong idea that she was mean to him. She gave him dirty looks. She never called him by his name. Um, and so this idea, oh, you're torturing this child by being mean to him. And then there's the actual incident of it should have been you. The it should have been you moment where he goes up to see Bran, and even though the line doesn't really make any sense, Cat says, "Oh, it should have been you," as if John were climbing or something. Like he and Bran were out there together or something. It doesn't. Whatever the case, it's people say, well, the line doesn't make sense because she's not in a good state. Like she's in a horrible state, and so there is that out. There is that out for Cat, where on being mean to John in that moment, saying, "Look, give her a break. Like her Bran has fallen and is paralyzed from the waist down and is in a coma. Okay, give her a break. She's had a bad day. Like she's it literally says that she's been taking her meals in there. She's been crapping in there. She hasn't left the room. She's like completely insane. So the it should have been you line. Come on, like give her a break there. She had a bad day. However, you can say, well, you can't say that about her being like habitually mean to him over the course of his life. And you could say that's true. However, Ned put her in that situation where you kind of say, he's the one that like wouldn't ever tell her about John's mother, and like kept this like secret that was like so emotional to him that she could sense was emotional and important. And never through like their entire marriage did he trust her to open up about it. And that's clearly like a big sticking point, and probably the reason she's so mean to John is it's really the sticking point in a relationship with Ned. So there's kind of an out there too on being mean to John. Then people start talking about like, okay, the other things that Cat did bad. Okay, she convinces Ned to go south based on a prophecy and a letter from Lysa. That was a bad move. And she kidnaps Tyrion. A pretty boneheaded move. But the out for that, you sort of say as well, this is based on information her sister and her childhood friend gave to her. Like, shouldn't she trust her sister and her childhood friend with this information? And again, it's very emotional situation. Her son has been paralyzed from the waist down. About this, she's not in the right mindset. So there's an out there. Now, the thing that Kat did that is the worst thing that she's ever done in her life, which no one ever brings up, is she murders an innocent man at the Red Wedding. She grabs an innocent man and slits his throat. And that innocent man had nothing to do with the Red Wedding. He didn't know about it. And she just kills him. But again, the out is, well, she's not really in her mind, the right mindset. She is, nuts. She's worried about, Rob and things like that. She's being rash. But weirdly, that's never brought up by cat haters. Like, the worst thing that Cat does is she murders an innocent man. But people never bring that up. It's, oh, you were mean to John. That's the worst thing that you ever did. Like, no, like she killed a dude. Like, she killed a dude. Killed a dude that was innocent. So, and, left his children as orphans or children. The joke is that Jingle Bell has children in A Clash of Kings, but then his children are retconned away. Yes. Now let's talk about Ned. So Ned, arguably, he's worse to Jon than Cat. Ned never tells Jon about his mother. He lies to Jon his entire life, keeps it from him. And you have to ask yourself, well, which would be more damaging to you? That your stepmom is mean to you, or you're never told by your father who your mother is, and it's kept a secret from you your entire life. People can argue about it, but I would say not learning about my mother from my father. Like, why would my father not keep this from me? So I would say Ned is on the same level of torturing Jon as Cat. He then allows Jon to join the Night's Watch, which is a bad move, and then he lies to his wife, his whole life about Jon's mother, and keeps it from her. Drives her crazy by doing that. All pretty shitty. Horrible moves. Now, the out people have is speculation. The out is it had to do with Lyanna's promise, But the thing is, if a promise is crap, you don't have to fucking follow it. This is the whole thing about Jaime. Jaime promised to protect Aerys, but then something came along that was much more important than that promise. And, he ended it. So Ned says that he broke the promise when he was in the black cells. So I don't even know what the promise is. But say the promise, let's say best case scenario is the promise is the show promise. In the show, Lyanna asks Ned to keep Jon's identity a secret because Robert will kill him. And the problem with this is that in story, Ned doesn't think Robert is one that would hurt any of his family. And that he's not a child killer. Robert believes that, Ned believes this about Robert. And then at the end of the story, we find out that is actually true about Robert. Robert isn't one to do that. He comes around and realizes he was wrong. So Ned thinks Robert's a good person. Robert is a good person in the end. And so why the lie exists doesn't, because Lyanna promised, people could say, well, Lyanna doesn't know Robert's a good person. Okay. But Ned does. And so it's like torturing a child his entire life, giving him complexes versus a dead sister's promise. I'm going to say if it's a shitty promise, you shouldn't follow it. You shouldn't keep it. So I'm going to say Ned did some pretty crappy things there. Now, other stuff in story, Ned was duped into starting the war by going after the mountain at Mummer's Ford. That was really stupid. Him, having mercy for Cersei was really stupid. Got a lot of people killed with these actions. But I would say that again, he's being misled by Littlefinger and other people and Varys, and so there's an out there. However, there's not much of an out with his action at the beginning of the story. He kills Garrett without listening to him. He sentences him to death and kills him, and takes his children to the execution, which I can't see much explanation for this. People will say, "Oh, well, Garrett broke the law," but people like Jon broke the law. Jon deserted the Night's Watch, and he doesn't get killed, and we all think that's fine. Like he could have listened to Garrett. Garrett could have told him, like, "Oh yeah, the others were there. I was super scared," and then maybe we'd actually organize some sort of resistance against the others had he just sat there and listened to Garrett. So that's probably the worst thing. He also just kills a man that doesn't deserve to die. I'm not sure if we would use the word murder, because murder is unlawful killing and he is the law, and therefore anything Ned does is legal. But he kills a dude that shouldn't be killed. And so, and takes his kids to the execution, takes a 7-year-old to an execution. I mean, that's pretty crap. That's pretty horrible. So both Ned and Cat have some pretty bad aspects to their personality. They both tortured Jon their whole lives. They both killed some innocent people that shouldn't have been killed. They both screwed up the war quite a bit through their stupidity. So in the end, yeah, they're both flawed. I don't know why Cat gets more crap than Ned when Ned is just as bad, if not worse. All right, going on. Any nursing homes for old people in Westeros? We certainly don't hear about anything like this. I'm sure there's, you could somehow have the possibility of sending some old man to a sept or something. But keep in mind that nursing homes are a modern Western American focused. I mean, American first. I mean, obviously they're spreading to other places, but like the nuclear family, this idea that you are just two people with your children, it's a fairly new concept. Most of the world works under an extended family system where you live with your parents and somebody's there to take care of them. Most of the world works that way. And certainly 100 years ago, more of the world worked that way. And that nursing homes were just not a thing. There's no kind of need for a nursing home because like your children are taking care of the parents. Like that's just how it works. This idea that you need to like, ship your parents away to like some home because you're busy with your job and your kids. It's just not the way things worked in past agricultural societies. Like your first of all, your parents are going to be not that much older than you, and then you have children and you've got all these children. Now you go deal with grandma, go deal with grandpa. Like there wouldn't be a nursing home situation. There's not this, it's like saying, is there daycare in Westeros? Well, no, like why would there be daycare? I mean, that's what the family is for. That's what the elder children are for, taking care of the younger children, things like this, So it's keep in mind, the American way of doing things with the nuclear family is odd. I mean, granted, it's growing and taking over, but when I lived in China, they thought that they literally said to me, the Chinese, that they considered like the United States to be kind of like a Holocaust situation because of the way we treated old people. Like they said, we here in America, you just ship off your old people to like home, to like camps and like away from the family. And it's like, it's not quite what they're thinking, but it's close. Like it's one of those things where you're just like, oh yeah, no, you're kind of right. You're kind of right. I mean, they had other weird ideas. They're like, oh, we heard in America, like at the age of 18, you kick your children out of the house. And I'd be like, depends on the family, certainly not my family, but like some families are like that. They're 18 and they're like, you're on your own. But they thought that was also horrific. The family stays together. But yeah, the family would be staying together in Westeros. Are you guys going to do the 3-Body Problem podcast? Already did it. Already did it. You can go to Road to Torvalon. I did a podcast with Amber. You can check it out. We talk a good hour or so about 3-Body Problem. Carmine didn't watch it, so I haven't talked to him about it. But I talked to I watched it and discussed with Amber in depth. So it's over there on Amber's channel, the Road to Torvalon. Did Carmine have you listen to Not Like Us yet? Is this, keep in mind, Carmine's obviously more on the pulse of meme culture and everything, but is this like the Kendrick Lamar thing? Hello.
Preston, I 100% watched 3-Body Problem. We talked about it on stream.
Really? You watched through? Oh, I forgot. You binged it.
I feel like I feel as though you don't know I watched something unless we discuss it together on call.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm sorry. I did. Yeah. No, it was also that you're just like, I think in the end you're like, yeah, no, pretty good. And that was it. Like, maybe that was it.
Okay,
I was like,
oh. Yeah, it's fine. It's cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, whatever. Yeah. Whatever.
But my more in-depth discussion is with Amber, where
and you know what? Thank fucking God, because I love Amber. Thank God for Amber, because Amber is my out. Like, hey, Carmine, you want to discuss 3-Body Problem? Amber really knows a lot about it. Like, there you go. So yeah. This is why having like YouTubers outside the Game of Thrones community is yeah.
So what's Not Like Us?
You don't want to know, man. It's just
is this the Kendrick Lamar thing?
How'd you know?
Look, I'm not under a rock. I didn't listen to it, but I hear some rumblings. But what's so crazy about the song? I've not listened to the song. Carmen's gone. He's like I don't want to. Is it what, like, what's the skin?
Is your echo cancellation thing on?
Jesus Christ. It's almost always on. Let me check here. It says here my echo cancellation is on.
Eventually you're gonna have to like put on headphones. You know this.
No, look. Is the echo cancellation off? Say something.
Blah, 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 blah.
Say more.
Something more.
I don't know. It's too comfy. Like headphones, cramp my style. I don't understand. Even the video where people are like, Carmine's echoing so much. You didn't sound like you echoed that much. I don't fucking get it, man. People are fucking picky. People are picky. One person was like, basically, real professional guys. And I replied like, you think, like, and I pinned him, but I was like, you think we're professionals? Like, and then he deleted his comment, but it's like, yeah. Is that my downvote from that guy?
He just got it. I'm too white to really know much about the situation, but basically Drake, from my understandings of the other whites who know what's happening, basically Drake is known as like a piece of shit in the community, and because there's an extra layer to it because he's light skinned and Kendrick is
Oh,
not. There's
yeah.
that extra layer of like hatred there. This is something a
Oh.
buddy of mine who is a black man from New York explained it to me. There's apparently, I didn't realize this because I'm not really in the black community. There's a hatred between light skinned black people and dark skinned black people. And dark
Yes.
skinned black people believe that light skinned black people, oh, you know about this. They
Oh, I
believe
mean,
that light skin can blend in easier, I
yeah.
guess. And because Drake is mixed, um, a lot of black
Hmm.
rappers feel as though like it, there's like, do you mind if I explain one more caveat to this?
By the way, I mean, first of all, the light skin dark thing is famous. I mean, if you've read any
Is it?
literature, if you've read Black Like Me, like
Oh,
he goes through the light skin dark thing quite a
mm,
bit. There's also there's this hip hop song from the 90s I remember where this I forgot who it was, but it was a rap about how dark skinned girls were like better than light skinned girls. And then at the end of the song,
mm.
one of the guys is like, yeah, but come on, there's some pretty hot like light skinned girls. And the guy's like, no, man, stop it. And he's like, but come on, man. Like some of them are Holly Berry, man. And he's like, they get in this fight at the end of the song. But yeah,
So
it's,
I really hate this one musician named Lord Jamar. I call him High Priest Jafar because fuck that guy. And Lord Jamar goes out of his way never to give Eminem any of his dues because Lord Jamar and a lot of rappers who are black
mm,
feel as though white people are guests in the house of hip hop, which I think is
mm,
bullshit. And I feel like this is where Kendrick, even though I'm on Kendrick's side, fuck Drake. Even like I feel like that's where Kendrick is coming from. Kendrick feels as though because Drake is mixed and because he's Canadian, so on and so forth, um, that Drake is like, a culture vulture, which I think is bullshit. But there's lots of things for him to hit Drake on, which he did.
mm.
And I made the comparison on social media that Kendrick is like Tywin right now. Preston, this fucking Kendrick,
I
to
still
put it
don't know what the song is about. You're like you've
I'm
gone
getting into it.
straight in.
I'm doing a Preston
You're like
Jacobs. I'm explaining
you're
it.
like what's the song of Ice and Fire about? And you're like, look, man, it's like the little finger like relationship with
No, I'm
Varys. It's
setting it up
very
for you.
complicated. And the person's like, what? What?
I'm Preston Jacobsing it. I'm setting up for you. So
Okay.
so the songs is basically Kendrick got upset because Drake did something, so he released a diss, and then
Mm.
Drake released his own diss. Then Kendrick released another diss 30 minutes later, and then released another diss. Basically, Kendrick is Tywin. He orchestrated the Red Wedding and carried it out himself twice on Drake. The songs are basically about how Drake is a pedophile, and how
Oh,
Drake
but that's
is like
true, right?
I, I can't.
Wasn't Drake the one that was like contacting Millie Bobby Brown?
I think so. I don't know much about that whole.
Yeah. Okay,
I don't know much
okay.
about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
situation.
All right.
Kendrick also dropped that Drake may have a secret child, amongst other things that Drake covers for other
Yeah,
pedophiles in
yeah.
his own
For those
crew.
that are listening that are like, what's going on here? It's like a rapper was contacting the girl from Stranger Things, like when she was and like trying to be friends with her when she's like 15 years old.
Yeah, it's. I'll be very real with you. I remember Drake when he was Jimmy in Degrassi. Like that was watching
Mm,
Degrassi. It's a Canadian high school show where it's he
I
was
know.
he was Jimmy, and now all of a sudden he's Drake. So
I mean,
that's
Degrassi brought us Ryan Reynolds, so.
Degrassi did not bring us Ryan
Oh,
Reynolds, did it?
I'm sorry. Different Canadian soap opera show. 15 was the other one.
Hmm.
Yeah, kind of like Degrassi, less screwed up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for confusing my Canadian teen soap operas. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All right, I'm gonna let you do these. I'm gonna bounce. I'll come on and like later and
All right. All right.
see.
I've always been intrigued by Demeric Bolton and his story history, the little we know anyway. Any thoughts on him? No. I mean, I think he's just introduced as a character who's just supposed to be an all around like straight up good guy, kind of this sort of like what if situation of like what if he didn't die, then everything would be fine. Like it's that kind of situation. I mean, even though there's a lot of problems with Rhaegar, I think Rhaegar was put in by George R. R. Martin as the if only he were ruling kind of guy, everything would be fine. Um, at least at the beginning of the story, when he first thought of it. Like I know he said like, "Oh, the hero dies before the story begins," and it's like I guess you're talking about Rhaegar. Um, so I think Demeric Bolton is like that. He's supposed to represent this like good character um, who had he lived, we wouldn't be in this mess. Oh, there'd be no Ramsay Bolton, Ramsay Snow like causing trouble. So it's just supposed to be seen as like this tragedy that Bruce Bolton had this really good son, and then brought in Ramsay because of his weird affair, not affair, his weird rape of this woman and then she brings in this like this baby that may or may not be Roos's, that he takes in as a bastard, who then like kills his son, and wants to usurp his realm. So I think that's mainly what Domeric is like point in the story, is just like the good character that had he lived, everything would have been better. Um, if Westeros had football, who would have the best team? Uh, so this is a hard one, because I'm trying to think of it in terms of like American football, but so no, so American sports are kind of funny in that we the one of the things people kind of think about American sports, especially with basketball and baseball, is that, oh, if you have a rich franchise, they'll always have the ability to just buy um, players. And so, the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees and are always going to be good teams, or the LA Dodgers are always going to be good teams because they're rich. And the same with like basketball, you end up seeing these dynasties and things like this. Well, meanwhile, like the LA Clippers, they never make it, or Minnesota Timberwolves. You're not going to get too many great teams. Every once in a while, you'll get something, but football's a little different, where it's actually set up really well with in terms of profit sharing, and so the teams have a lot more equity in how good they are now. So I mean, obviously, if you're sitting in this situation where you're just supposed to think who has the most burly men, right? You're supposed to think that the North has somehow is going to have an advantage. But if you say, well, who's the richest? The Reach, the Westerlands. Well, then they have the money to buy the players or something like that. So it's, hard to say on that, or and imagine if we're talking about European football. Mm. But I guess the idea is that the I'm trying to think of, are Northerners bigger people than the rest of them? I don't know. I mean, I suppose if it's all about like who has the mountain on their team, maybe it would just be, maybe the Westerlands would win. Um, what is Marwyn's great plan? Hmm. um, I mean, for a long time, I put in that Marwyn is working with the Dornish master plan. That he is part of that team, that and would like the Dornish to kind of take over. Now, as time goes on, I question myself, and I question how much George even knows what's coming. Um, as I look at things more detailed, and I see how often he's changed the plot and things like that. Um, I wonder if does he even know what Marwyn wants. So he seems to believe that the gray rats and the maesters, that their desire to get rid of magic is a bad thing, and that there should be some sort of like supernatural magical element in the world. And so one would think that if he's not just on the Dornish master plan, let's say he has something beyond this, that he would be focused on dragons and stopping the others, and higher mysteries. And so he may want the return of dragons, because maybe he really does think that these dragons are going to be useful for I don't know, advancement. I mean, it's hard to say like what he would want to do with that magic. Does he want magic because magic is going to be useful for human development in the same way that like, oh, should we develop cold fusion? Like most of us would be like, oh, cold fusion would be great, because infinite energy. But other people would be like, well, cold fusion, I don't know. Maybe there's some dangers to that. So he might just be nothing more than like a guy who thinks that the maesters are Luddites, and is hoping to find maybe if he's aligned with the Dornish, he wants the Dornish to take over because maybe they'll have a better view on reforming the Citadel or something like that. Or maybe he really does know about the others and wants dragons to return or something like that. I mean, we feel like he has a focus on wanting magic to return, and wants to learn more about magic. So either he thinks magic will be good for human society, or he thinks maybe magic will be good for fighting the others or something like that. Thoughts on the AOD was a Y explains the FM migration. I imagine that AOD stands for Arm of Dorne and explains the first men migration. Arm of Dorne was a Y. Arm of Dorne. Was a Y. Trying to think of what the Y is in this. Let me come back. Anyone have idea what the Y is? An Arm of Dorne? Arm of if right, am I thinking that it's Arm of Dorne? AOD? I think anyway, generally speaking, my idea about the Arm of Dorne is pretty boring in the sense that I think that I personally think that the first men migration and the Arm of Dorne is just supposed to be the same thing as the Bering Straits and like American Indian migration. Like that's I think that there's just like once you kind of say, well, there used to be a glacier, and so it would be there more water would be in glaciers if it were colder, and so therefore the ocean levels would drop, and then so people could migrate, and so if you so the time period of the first man migration is supposed to be 14,000 years ago, which is when people used to think that the American Indian migration was like during the Ice Age. So I just kind of think that we don't need any big explanation on the Arm of Dorne. Like our own history tells us what it was. It was a land bridge, and the land bridge went away with the melting of glaciers in the same way that our land bridge went away with the melting of glaciers. Like, I don't think there's a need for like meteorites or magic or anything like that. It's just, it's just pretty straightforward. Like you look at our history, Westeros has the same history. Mm. Well, maybe I'll find out what the why was in that. Um, Rob is the worst oathbreaker and kinslayer. Um, trying to think. I don't know if killing a Karstark really counts as kinslaying. I mean, at what point do you get to say that this person is not in the same family? Because we know, looking at the Stark family tree, that at least going back as far as like Cregan Stark and before that, like um, that they're not in the same family. You know, that the Karstarks, like when did the Karstarks break off? Is it thousands of years ago? Let's see how long. It says here possibly 700 years ago. Oh, 700 years before conquest. Catelyn Stark says that Carlin Stark put down a rebel lord 1,000 years ago. The problem is 1,000 years in the story doesn't mean 1,000 years. Um, but Martin said in a So Spake Martin that they were founded more than 1,000 years ago. So somebody 1,000 years ago is not your kin. I mean, so I wouldn't say that. I think that the kinslayer thing that he got screamed at is a little ridiculous. Now, is he an oathbreaker? Yeah, he's an oathbreaker. Now, everybody's an oathbreaker in this story, but it was a really dumb move. Now, some would say that Rob was drugged and things like that, and it wasn't his fault. He's a 15-year-old boy, 15 or 16-year-old boy. So really, the problem was, I would say, he's kind of a kid, and it's not his fault. The person whose fault it is Great John Umber. Because is he the first? Great John Umber is the first one to like declare king of the North, right? Like that's just like you're a full-grown man, and you have put the fate of everybody in the decision making of a child. Like you are, like you've elected a child, and it's like you bullied everybody into doing it and being like king of the North, and everybody's like, yeah, let's follow a child. Like he's a kid, so you can kind of say, well, it's not like how much is his fault. So really, I'm gonna say it's Great John. Like Great John is the one who's really at fault here. Because let's see here. Maybe I'll do the search. King in the North. He says, okay. Yeah, so this is all Great John's fault, I think. My lords, he shouted, his voice booming off the rafters. Here's what I say to these two kings, he spat. Renly Baratheon is nothing to me, nor Stannis neither. Why should they rule over me and mine from some flowery seat in Highgarden or Dorne? What do they know of the Wall or the Wolf's Wood or the Barrows of the First Men? Even their gods are wrong. Okay, so now look, I'm not really one to defend monarchy, but his arguments are crap, okay? Why should they rule over me or mine? Well, Torrhen Stark knelt, and that's a oaths and fealty is law under feudalism. Okay, so yeah, feudalism sucks, monarchy sucks. I get it, but he's just establishing another monarchy. But yes, there's a legal precedent. There is an oath that was established. So from the flowery seats in Highgarden or Dorne, he doesn't even know geography. Okay, they're Renly and Stannis are Stormlanders. They don't live in Highgarden or Dorne. But anyway, what do they know of the Wall or the Wolf's Wood or the Barrows of the First Men? I'm sure they know some. I don't know. Even their gods are wrong. Now it's a religious thing. Okay. Now he's saying, oh, you can't rule over me because of your religion. Others take the Lannisters to have a belly full of them. Why shouldn't we rule ourselves again? Well, because it would be a massive war and lots of people would die. And you Torrhen Stark had an oath, and that was legal, a legal precedent. It was the dragons we married, and the dragons are all dead. Well, kind of retconned, but sorry, but the Baratheons, their grandmothers were Targaryens, so they're not really all dead. This is not how feudalism works. He pointed at Robb with his blade. There sits the only king I need to bow my knee to, my lords, he thundered. King in the north. So it was his fault. He decided. They all just. Mage Mormont was next, man. What idiots? What idiots? I mean, ask yourself, would you do what he did? Would you be like, you know what? Yeah, let's follow a 15-year-old boy. Yeah, that's the way to go. Because my current rulers aren't the right religion. That's so yeah, I mean, Robb, I'm going to say he gets an out because he's a kid. Why did Ned ban the Ashara talk at Winterfell? Why not just tell Cat the truth? What was his sin? Cat and Ned were married and barely knew each other. So this is something that I've struggled with for a long time. When people say, "Oh, the R plus L equals J," they say, "Well, why when Cat heard the Ashara tale and then went to Ned and said, 'What's the truth of it?' And he said, 'Never talk to me about Jon.' How is Ashara related to Jon? What's the story?" And the truth is, George R. R. Martin doesn't know. He never wrote the Starfall story. Like, somehow it all relates to Jon, and we don't know. Now, some people say, it's we're not exactly sure how Catelyn phrased the "tell me the truth of it" line. That maybe it's "tell me the truth of it" is Ashara the mother of Jon, and then then he can say, "Oh, don't never talk to me about Jon." But he never tells her about Ashara. Like, if his story is Wyla, like, just fucking stick with Wyla. Like, have a good fucking tale about it. Rather than, driving Cat crazy. But yeah, it's Ned's being shitty. Why exactly he's being shitty is based on a story that we've analyzed that George R. R. Martin hasn't fully thought out and probably doesn't make sense. So, like, there's that. Keep in mind, though, those early chapters, because this is all from the early, like, first 13, 14 chapters. He wrote this, in 91, 92. And then, everything's been retconned, right? Like, this is back when Kingsguard could inherit and Tyrion could do flips and there were no werewoods south of the neck, and maesters wore multicolored robes. Like, a million things were different at the time when George R. R. Martin wrote this aspect of the story with regards to, like, the Lie and Catelyn and Ashara Dane and all of this. And the story has changed so much since then. So why not tell the truth? Cat the truth? I don't know. I know that for the fanfic, I have not figured this out, and I'm going to, part of the chapter call, when we do the I think it's going to we're going to reveal stuff in the Hota chapter, and maybe when I want Aaron to go to Starfall, we're going to try to address this. We're going to try to come up with something that makes sense, because the fandom's been talking about this forever, and nothing seems to make sense. Like what other than everything related to Ashara it's a red herring. It doesn't have to do with anything. Oh, well, that's interesting. That's interesting that Wyla was a wet nurse, and then Ned claims that Wyla was the mom, and Edric Dane and John were milk brothers, and they named Edric Ned, and it seems to be after Ned, and that all makes sense. So why not tell the truth about it? I don't know. It seems really crappy. It seems really crappy that he couldn't trust Cat, with the information, or at least have a good story. Like if Ashara Dane had nothing to do with John, tell her about Ashara Dane. But clearly, if the promise, which everybody seems to think that the promise has something to do with John, that he can't talk about any of it, that it's all related. So he can't talk about Ashara Dane because somehow it's going to reveal John's identity. Well, how? How is Ashara Dane related to the story? I've never heard of like a good story about it, other than like, a kind of like N plus A equals J, or B plus A equals J kind of like situation where there's a birthright, like a lineage aspect. Those kind of explain things a bit, but like assuming there's no lineage aspect, how does it relate? How does Ashara relate to John? I've never heard a good story. If you've got a good one, send it my way. But hey Preston, what's happening? Moved from Ireland to Rotterdam. What is your must-do spots for someone living in mainland Europe? Oh, jeez. Let me think about that. Let me pull up map of Europe. Here's all right, let's see here. Trying to think what's some all right. So our friend is living here in Rotterdam. So places you should definitely see around here. Okay. So obviously Amsterdam's pretty fun. You can go there. It's worth seeing the canals. The Hague is pretty boring. It's a pretty I mean, it's a very nice city, but not too much, I would say, as a tourist to see. You should probably hit Bruges. Bruges and Brussels is very pretty. It's going to be close by. Most people skip Brussels because it's just kind of dirty, though. I kind of like Brussels, but it's different in that they let people kind of go haywire with billboards. It's kind of like America, but Germany has got some great sites. You got really great churches, especially in Cologne. Strasbourg's got a really good Christmas market. I used to live in Frankfurt, but there's not much in Frankfurt. If you're into cars, you can go to Stuttgart and see the like different museums, like car museums, Porsche and stuff there. However, you should definitely hit Munich at some point. It's just and maybe go to Oktoberfest at some point. Um, but mainland Europe, really the most beautiful stuff you're going to see is in Switzerland, Interlaken. You should definitely go at some point, or Finland, Bergen. If you're going to head to Bergen, this is like the most beautiful place you'll ever fucking go in your life. Okay, Norway around Bergen is just, I mean, you're never going to see anything more beautiful than Norway. Okay, maybe Canada, some parts of Canada, like Banff and Jasper are going to be beautiful, but like Bergen's what to see. Um, Look, all these places are nice, but the funnest time I've ever had, I went to Latvia once. Oh my god, that was wonderful. Tallinn in Estonia, very beautiful. You'll have a great time if you go to any of these countries, but I'm just saying, like, what's the must see kind of places. My favorite in all of Europe is Portugal and Spain. I love Sevilla. Um, I love Lisbon. Uh, Big fan, big fan. But and obviously Vienna is probably one of the most beautiful cities you'll ever see. And come on, I mean, it's Paris. You got to go to Paris at some point, right? They don't. There's a reason why everything is called like the Paris of whatever, because it's fuck because it's. I mean, it's never the Paris of whatever because there's nothing. There's Paris. It's Paris. So what to really focus on? Yeah, in your local area, go see Bruges. But hit Paris at some point. Go to Interlaken. Go up to try to get to Norway at some point. Go to Bergen. Um, all these cities are beautiful. There's so many. There's so many that are beautiful. It's not like Luxembourg. Luxembourg isn't beautiful, but um, man, there's just so much to see and so little time. But man, you're in for a treat. You're in the middle of it all. You're in the middle of it all, and there's cheap flights to all these different places. Of course, it starts getting really beautiful once you get to Turkey. Turkey is probably you got Istanbul and like Göreme and stuff, Cappadocia. I mean, come on, that's some beautiful stuff. Or if you're gonna get to Sicily sometime, that's great. Malta, love it. I'm just naming everything, man. I'm just naming everything. But no matter where you go, you're gonna have a fun time. Um, let's see here. But I mean, you're from Ireland, though. I mean, you get. I mean, Cliffs of Moher was one of the most beautiful things. But man, um, why would John Con agree to the Aegon Arianne wedding? He feels he's entitled to Dorner support. Thinks Elia wasn't worthy of Rhaegar and wants to wait for Dany. I agree. I think that John Con would be against a Arianne Aegon wedding. You know, obviously he thinks that would be a bad move. He thinks that the Dornish are like who he needs in the meantime. The idea is that if Arianne were going to marry Aegon, it's because Aegon is going to want to marry Arianne, and he would nix Jon Con. We've already kind of seen like this seeded, that not specifically the marriage, but Aegon is the one that wanted to go west, right? First, Aegon wanted Duck to be his first Kingsguard. Okay, these are both bad decisions, really bad decisions. I would say almost even worse, maybe even a worse decision than marrying Arianne. But like, he should have gone east. He should have gone east. He should have not let Duck, who is psychotic, into his Kingsguard. Okay, Duck is a psycho. So, two bad moves already from Aegon. So, I mean, I think the idea is that Aegon is going to be making some bad decisions, and Jon Con, you think Jon Con's the hand and he's in control, but it's tough when when a king has their own ideas, right? And so, but you're absolutely right that Jon Con is not going to thinks Elia wasn't worthy. and he will want to wait for Danny, and he's going to give all of that advice, and he's not going to be listened to. That's Aegon's going to do something stupid, because obviously, like, even outside of my theories and the fanfic and things like this, George has said there's going to be a second Dance with the Dragons. That can't happen if Aegon and Danny are going to be married. Okay, so it's we know that they're not going to marry each other, so Aegon's probably going to marry somebody else. So oh, really? China, the country known to abandon little girls. Hey, I'm not saying Chinese aren't hypocrites on things, but yeah, they But we could talk about Americans and our ideas of another country. We immediately find our own hypocrisy in there. I'm trying to think, like, I'm trying to think like a common thing that we would criticize the like the Chinese over or whatever, and things we do instead. Like, or like we would say, like, oh, the Chinese, they eat dogs in China. How can they do that? And it's like, well, we eat pigs, and pigs are smarter. But then again, the Chinese love pigs too. So the Chinese love pigs more. But the idea is that all of these everybody's got hypocrisy. I lived at home until I was 20. Some people don't. Some people expect their kids to have just figured out when they turn 18. The thing about the whole, like, kicking people out at 18, or even like the movie Failure to Launch and stuff like this, or this idea that you're a loser because you live in your parents' basement. I think they're all kind of bullshit kind of ideas, because they don't really accept the reality of society, which is, one, like housing prices, or care for parents, disabilities, all sorts of different things, that there's all sorts of different reasons why people live with their parents, but it's strange that there's this American idea that you're a loser. You're a loser unless you are willing to, unless you're successful enough in the capitalistic system to throw an additional, whatever, between $12,000 and $36,000 a year on rent. You're a loser unless you can do that. Unless you have that just change thrown around and want to throw it away. This is your price for not being a loser in America. Somewhere between $12,000 and $36,000. That's just the economics thing. Like, imagine you're in a situation where, like your parents are sick or disabled, and you have to take care of them, or choose to take care of them, or you worry about your, all these are like real realities of the world, like very significant common realities. More, I would say that, like, somebody living with their parents and having, like, either the economics issue or the care issue is going to be much more common than the he's a loser, like, idea. And yet that's the first thing people go to, but no, I don't blame anybody for living with their parents, go for it. There's lots of legitimate reasons to now you got to do 3 body problem with Carmine. We'll see. I mean, I don't know I think Carmine didn't want to talk to me about it. That's why he was like, oh, thank goodness Amber talked to Preston about it. See, he just said LOL, no. Yeah. Which is too bad, I mean, I'm sure he would have other things to say about it, but now it's been a little time since we both watched it. We'd have to review it. Carmine's trying to get me to finish Shogun, so we can talk about that. For many years, my girlfriend has been studying accounting to become an auditor. Last summer, she worked as an audit intern, but had a bad experience. She's now considering something else. Advice for youth in the field. Now keep in mind, I'm not a financial auditor. Um, uh, but I would say that, like, I don't know. I mean, if she had a bad experience, like, this is the whole thing about life, right? Like, figuring out what you don't want to do. Um, I don't necessarily think like the advice is like keep going at it. Like, she's the one that had the experience in her job, and she experienced it firsthand. Um, and if she didn't like it, she didn't like it, and it's time to move on to something that makes her happy. Now, I will say that, like, um, if she has an accounting degree, she'll always be employable. And she doesn't have to be an auditor, but being an accountant, which I would consider boring, but like, you will never ever have to worry about finding work and struggling like for money ever again with an accounting degree. I mean, it's the price you pay. I mean, you pay for boring, but like the boring is the thing you live with. That it might be boring work, but you do any work long enough, it's not that boring. But I will say that, like, accounting, you will never, ever, ever have to worry about not having a job and not having money if you become an accountant. That's just like the fact of life, So, but, if she's considering something else, hey, it's her life. She knows better than anybody. I wouldn't necessarily recommend anybody to go into accounting, but advantages and disadvantages. 15. How do you know Canadian shows Canadians don't know? I think was 15 on Nickelodeon when I was young. This is the show I'm talking about. So 15 was Ryan Reynolds' like breakout show. So here he is, and it was just this like teen show. He had these, he hadn't gotten his teeth fixed. He was like this young. He played like the loser kid who then like somehow lands going out with the popular girl. This was the popular girl, and I don't know. It was a very, very poorly acted show, but I think it was on Nickelodeon for a while. I think that's where I saw it. But yes, very, very Canadian. Ryan Reynolds having teen acne skin in the X-Files episode ZZG made me feel better about myself. Ryan Reynolds is kind of I think Patrick H. Williams had an interesting video about Ryan Reynolds and The Rock and how they're similar in that they actually can act, both of them, but they've moved away from acting like in like diverse roles to put on their persona, and then have created like this brand, and now they just kind of act like Ryan Reynolds. Like Ryan Reynolds acts like Ryan Reynolds. He acts like his I'd say the Van Wilder, like two guys a girl in a pizza place character and everything, when he can do other things. And The Rock is, but it's an interesting video. What if the others are like the Reapers from Mass Effect, keeping Planetos technology progress from moving forward? You're bringing up an interesting point, because like something is keeping back Westeros society. But at the same time, is it the others? Like, I don't know how the others are keeping back Westerosi society. I mean, we could kind of say like, who would have the ability to do that? Like it's been 8,000 years since people have seen the others. So how are they bringing like how are they doing it? Um is it the uneven seasons? Like are they causing the uneven seasons which keep back the society because they go through these like horrible winters and they're so bad that society is just completely destroyed on the other end of it. Um I kind of feel like the only ones being able to keep it back would be like either the children of the forest, like through like telepathy, or the maesters through some sort of conspiracy, something keeping them in the medieval era for so long. Um, but I just don't know how the others would be doing it. I mean, it may be that like that. Yeah, their society got super advanced, so the long night was them bashing it down through a war. But then, what's been keeping them back for 8,000 years? Right? Like, I mean, it's an interesting idea. Um, Speaking of early Ryan Reynolds Canadian shows, did you know The Odyssey, your Ash is Dead convo with Carmine reminded me? Show equals kid in coma, dream world. The Odyssey. It's a Canadian show? Gotta check this out. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, it's also Ryan Reynolds. Oh my goodness. This is so much more like this is hilarious, by the way. This is like so much more like a Nerf gun commercial. Like, whoa, 90s kids, whoa, Nerf, like here we go. There's Ryan Reynolds in it. He looks so different. Um, but I've never seen The Odyssey, but it's like a Canadian Lord of the Flies or something. Huh. The Odyssey. All right. Uh-huh. Canada. So close and yet so far. Um oh, but this has to do with like the Ash is dead conversation. So Carmine and I were talking about like different Pokemon theory, and there's like a theory that Ash is dead. Um which doesn't really make any sense, but yeah. The but I guess in the Odyssey a kid is in a coma? Hmm. What is this all about? You're back?
Yes. Yeah. Did you explain the Ash is dead thing?
No, I think somebody listened to our Pokemon theory or Pokemon thing, but I haven't explained it yet. No.
Yeah. It's yeah. No, go ahead. I explained it to you.
Okay, okay. Um, Jay falls from a tree forest, striking his head and lapses into a coma. In the coma, Jay finds himself in the fantasy world. Oh my god! It's just uh, so the whole thing is this coma dream. That's grim. It's very grim. Um, well, I'm sorry. Remind me again. I mean, besides Ash being dead, what's beyond this in the theory of
No, no, that's what he's talking about. For people who don't know, we did a Patreon exclusive conversation where we talked about a bunch of stuff, Shogun and so other stuff, and we talked about Pokemon finally. And I finally got fucking. It's so weird. We always get these like questions like, "What's your favorite Pokemon?" And you briefly got into it before because you play Pokemon Go. I finally
Mhm.
asked you what your favorite was, and so on and so forth. That's what the previous super chatter was talking about. That Ash is dead. Like the entire journey is dead because he never ages. The
Yeah,
series has
oh,
been
because
going
he
on
never
for 20
ages.
years.
Gotcha,
He's
gotcha.
always 10. Every new season, he's 10.
But everybody doesn't age. So
Uh, yeah, I guess there has to be a reason for that.
um I mean, TV people don't age at all. I mean, this work for anything. The Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park. All animation people don't age. Spider-Man comics, there's no way one Peter Parker could have that many experiences in one lifetime. So, nah. Um, my life these days has just been like, Daddy, what does Starly evolve into? I don't know.
What does Starly evolve into? Do you know?
Staravia and
Yeah, wow, you
Staraptor.
know, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, Star
yeah,
Raptor, that's right. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
good on
yeah.
you, man.
The problem is he's been watching the show with Go, and some of the Pokemon that are on that show have not appeared in Pokemon Go yet, and
Mm.
so I have no idea. Like when he's like Score Bunny, it's like there's no Score Bunny in Pokemon Go yet. So, um,
Score Bunny is a. Well, we were discussing this on the Patreon podcast. It's a lazy design. It's basically a bunny with soccer pants.
I mean,
It's stupid.
I said the same thing when he asked me about Starly. Like I'm like Starly is it's just a bird. Like there's no like what the
Right.
like
They're supposed to be
there's
like
nothing to it. It's just a
animals.
fucking bird. Like,
Right. They're
like
supposed to be like fucking animals, but now it's just so goddamn lazy.
they're just
Like it's just
it's just like that's just a cat. That's just a dog. Like that's just like oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, you are kind of right. Now that you've pointed it out to me, like looking at my Pokedex, I'm just like, man, you're right. The late
fucking
ones late
the
ones
late
just
ones
kind of
are very
suck.
they're terrible. The first ones actually look like actual animals. Someone made a comparison between two fox Pokemon, Vulpix
Mm,
and Zora, which is like a Gen 5, whatever the fuck. Vulpix
yeah,
actually has like little paws like a cat, like an actual fox. And
sure.
Zora has like one like finger. Like it's weird. Like they cutesied everything up because of course.
Right. So like there's a Pokemon called like Squovit, and it's just a fucking squirrel. Like that's all it is.
Can you show
Or
me? I don't. Maybe you're saying it wrong. I don't. Just show me real quick. What's it called? Squolvit? What the fuck is that thing? Oh, that. Oh, it's yeah. No, we've had better
it's just a fucking
squirrels.
squirrel. Or
Yeah.
like look, Wooloo. It's just a fucking lamb. Like
I will be very real with you. Wooloo is actually a really cute design. I just hate its evolution. We had something like that in Gen 2, Mareep, and then evolves into
you're right.
Flaffy, and then
Mareep,
Ampharos.
there's nothing good to Mareep either. But some
Uh,
of them are okay. I mean, I don't know. I guess this like, this cum guzzler is fine. Whatever.
Oh, Jesus Christ. He made the same joke in the Electra. He made the same joke in the Electra.
You can't they're fine. Some of them are fine. No, I said I liked this one. I said I like this one. This one's like you're like,
Solgaleo?
it's fine. But you are right that most of them are just
Most of the new
like
ones are trash. They're
like
stupid.
look, it's an owl but with a bow tie.
Rowlet's
Like
fucking adorable. You gotta admit, that motherfucker's adorable.
it's fine. They're all freaking cute. Whatever, they're Pokemon. It's fine. It's fine. By the way, regarding the cute thing, I've noticed that people that are into Pokemon like talk about the Pokemon being cute and I realize the characters in the show talk about the characters being cute, but I realized that like growing up as a boy, I never called anything cute. And I just kind of thought like, is it because they like saw the characters on TV calling it cute and therefore they started using that in their vernacular? Like you're like, oh yeah, that Pokemon's cute. Like one of the values of the Pokemon is they're cute. But it's like the trainers on the TV show also value cuteness. But I just don't remember being a boy like liking cute things. So
I have a
I thought it
question
was
for you.
interesting. Yeah.
Someone is trying to throw this at you, and do you have a rant on this? Can Preston name what type Charizard is in the original series? I want to hear his rant. You have a rant on this?
Charizard? I mean, Charizard's a fire dragon.
No, he's not.
What?
Charizard's a fire flying.
He's not dragon? Fucking.
No.
All right, fine. I thought maybe he would pick up dragon.
He knows some dragon moves.
That also gets me. I mean, he usually throws um he throws I mean, yeah. I mean, you're right.
I
Um
like how I like how this dude. I like how it, like the audience just knows you well enough to know that like that you're gonna get annoyed by it.
yeah. I guess that is annoying. I mean, it's just that a lot of Pokemon pick up the dragon type when they evolve. Like fucking the executor, executor,
Executor?
executor. He gains a dragon type when he evolves and things like that. I just figured, but I was wrong.
Does he? Executor? Oh, probably in the first move.
Alolan, the Alolan one.
Oh god, the Alolan one. It's fucking stupid ass. It's fucking of course. Fucking
Anyway, good
Executor.
question. At least Cat tried to keep Bran alive. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess Ned didn't do anything to try to kill Bran, which is surprising. This is um I bet Vic was going to be a Firewhite in the draft. I think Vic. Oh, hmm. So what Phil is talking about here is in the original outline, Vic is described as dying. It just says Victarion dies in an outline of like the chapter place. And then we find that in our story, Victarion has something weird happen to him with his hand, and he's back. And so there's a question of like, okay, Victarion, maybe George didn't change it that much. Maybe he didn't completely reorganize the story. Maybe he was just going to be a Firewhite, and maybe not have a POV anymore or something like that. And then George just kept going with the POVs and kind of ignored the that situation, because it is a little weird when Victarion is outside his own body and there's the description of people being outside the room while Makoro is working on him, which that could, like, if that happened during a Game of Thrones, people would kind of ignore it as just weird writing of the time. But something as late as a Dance with Dragons, that seems like a very weird thing. I don't know. I mean, I know that it seems like George did change the story in that making Victarion fit the House of the Undying Prophecy instead of Euron. I think that was probably something that was done. So I don't know if he really thought about the Firewhite thing. Maybe hard to say. Preston, best DC area airport. I prefer DCA. Well, of course you prefer DCA. Everyone wants to go out of National because you don't have to fucking go out in the middle of fucking nowhere all the way to Dulles. Dulles sucks. But I mean, Dulles flies to different locations. So in the DC area, we all hate our airport because it's way out of the city. But also, once you're there, it takes fucking forever to get to your plane because they have these goddamn people movers. You've got to like wait at a gate and then get on this people mover. And then the people mover like takes you to the plane. And then the reverse happens. You're like, you land and you're after some long flight and you're like, oh fuck, I finally made it to DC. Oh my gosh. And then you get off and it's like, I've got to wait for the people mover. God damn it. Fuck. And then you get through the people mover, you get back, you get your luggage, and then you're like a million miles outside of the city and you're like, oh God, it's going to take me forever to get back. So yeah, DCA is, of course. There are times where I would like purposely put a layover in like Philly just so I could like fly into DCA rather than Dulles, because the time was about the same. It was about the same to like change flights and go to DCA than to go to Dulles. Anyway, boring stuff. But yeah, obviously, national is better. Uh, uh, um. So Karma, man, what's happened lately? How you doing?
well, well, it's just people be funny. People are funny.
Oh yeah.
People are very funny. Yeah. People are very funny on TikTok with this bear thing. Um,
Oh, you want to talk about the bear?
I mean, I just real quick before you get into that, I just love how like you can tailor this question towards anyone who has a specific political leaning. Like for example, with conservatives, would you rather be alone in the woods, stuck with encounter a bear, or Hunter Biden? And watch conservatives pick the bear every time, or far leftists. Would you rather be alone in the woods, encounter a bear, or J.K. Rowling, and watch the leftists pick the bear every time? So you could always like interchange them, you know.
I mean, like first of all, I think I talked about it last time. Like the bear, it all depends on the bear. Like if you saw a black bear, there's no fear at all of running into a black bear. Well, if you ran into a grizzly or a polar bear or whatever, like, oh my god, you're dead. So there's such extreme differences on which bear. Like, do they mean a grizzly bear, or do they mean like I'm gonna rant like I'm rolling dice, and you might get a black bear? I don't even know the premise like in that sense. But it's a silly question. Like obviously it's being brought up because you know um women have a lot of fear of men, okay? And we're supposed to be like talking about that sort of anxiety because there's so many men, there's a lot of shitty men, and therefore that segment of shitty men gives women in general a lot of anxiety. And the fact that we're even having this debate shows like how much anxiety and fear the average woman like has over men. I get it. I get it. Granting all of that, it's a stupid question because like it's just like of course a random person is going to be less dangerous than a grizzly bear. Like of course, like I
Also,
get
people
it.
out here are exaggerating it, and you've clearly have never seen The Revenant, the DiCaprio film, when he gets attacked by a grizzly bear.
Right,
Holy
but I mean, I
shit!
get it. Like people don't know much about bears, so like they don't know much about grizzly bears, and they also like don't know much about people. You know, like people are irrational about different fears. Like I think after like 9/11, like people were talking about like terrorism insurance, and you could like sell terrorism insurance to people for like these huge amounts of money, because they're just irrational about the threat of terrorism.
Are you
Um,
serious? There's
oh yeah.
terrorism insurance. Let me see this.
Oh yeah, I mean, just like ridiculous kind of
Oh
talks and
shit! No
discussions.
way! No way! There's terrorism insurance, dude. If I was, this is why I can't be. This is why I can't be like someone who has wealth. This is
Right.
why I can't be a millionaire, because I would buy this for like you as a goof. Like this is ridiculous. Like,
Even though I think like regular insurance like it covers acts of terror anyway, so you wouldn't
do
even
they?
get it. So like,
By the way, real quick, for the Europeans in the audience, this is the American mindset. A guy in the stream chat by the name of Wind Sage Dragon just said, "I could legit fight a bear." Even if he's joking, the average American, I think that 20% of Americans, 15 to 20%, believe that they can fight off a bear. Um,
you could legit fight a black bear. You could not legit fight a
ah,
grizzly. Like a grizzly
so
is going to kill you.
there's a
Um,
video of a guy where a black bear invades like his kid's birthday party or something,
mhm.
and he's like, "Go get!" And the black bear acquiesces, but right before he leaves the area, he swipes at the guy and then leaves. His claw marks left a gash
Oh
across the
yeah.
man's stomach. Like,
I'm
even though black bears are kind of cowardly sometimes, they could still fuck you up.
sure, but I'm saying like I think the idea is that you can fight one and then hope that it's going to start running away. Like once you start like punching it, it's good because it's cowardly. It'll like run. Now, if you're saying like you and the black bear in a cage fight until death, I don't know, like that's like. But I'm talking like I wouldn't be. I look. I've run into black bears in the woods many times. Zero fear of black bears. I have zero fear of black bears. They run away immediately. Um, you
Wait,
know,
first off, you have to stop saying that because remember, you're incredibly tall and loud. So that's just not fair. The average person is not 6'7", nor can they like
well,
spout
the
off
thing is
random
now
ice and fire facts.
what that guy in your video um got in trouble with, because he got the new there are black bears who are in the woods, and then there are black bears who like live on leavings, like
Uh
the
huh.
raccoon black bears. Those are the more, I mean, they're more dangerous because they're like more acculturated to like people and are looking for human trash. um but still, like, you can, they're not very fast. You can outrun him. You can, like, they're not worried about you. They're not going to attack you. They're going to go after your trash and your food. Like, that's the thing, is like, you have so many options with a black bear. It either runs away from you or you run away from it. Like, but grizzly's just going to fucking murder you. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
just, I mean, grizzly, if you make a bunch of noise, it might go away, but you don't want to be near a grizzly, man.
There was a guy who, an aftermath video. There was a guy who had bear mace on him, and I think a grizzly charged him, and he used the bear mace on it. It pissed it off, but it got it got a couple swipes on him. He survived. It fucked off, but holy shit, it really
Yeah.
fucked him up. There are videos of this. It really fucked him up a little
Oh
bit.
my god, did you ever see the documentary about the bear guy?
The man and his wife who were recording themselves with this
Mm-hmm.
bear, and then yeah, I did not see it, but I know about it.
It's an
Um,
incredible documentary. It's an
the
incredible
German
documentary.
guy, the older German gentleman, is the one that narrates it, right? I forgot his name. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
Wilhelm something something.
yeah. Grizzly Man is the name of it, but like, it's one of the most incredible documentaries I've ever seen. Because I mean, it's mostly like the dude's own footage, but like, he was like playing around and wrestling grizzly bears, and you're like, oh my god. So, um, but
That
man,
reminds me. Have you ever seen the movie about like it's an old, very old movie about the people living with the lions?
no,
There's an old movie like 70s 80s where these people live with actual fucking lions. I'm not kidding. Movie where
yeah,
people live.
yeah.
It's crazy. And of course everyone got Roar, the name of it. It's a 1981 American adventure comedy. Oh whoa. They actually filmed with actual lions. And he
I mean,
lives
but
with
it's
lions,
very
tigers, and
similar
other
to
things.
who was the performers with their tigers, Siegfried and Roy. I mean, the thing
Hmm.
is, like, you can be in these situations where things are safe with the animals for a while, but when the animals get old or angry or hungry, everything turns, and that's I mean, that's what happened to Grizzly Man himself. Like, he would go up every, like, for a season every year, and he used to go in like midsummer, and then one year he just went a month later, and he got murdered, because like, that's when the bears start getting like hungry and ready to hibernate, so it's just like little things like that. um who sent Danis the Dreamer visions about the doom of Valyria? My guess on that is that there is some sort of, um there is either the Children of the Forest sent it, or there is some other, um like, three-eyed crow at the time, like a different human being in that tree before Bloodraven, um or something like that. um the other theory is that, like, Daenerys' family, like, is the one that freaking did it. She didn't have any dreams at all. That she sabotaged, she caused the doom, or she had some other. Maybe she was a scientist. She was actually a geologist, and she knew that, like, the volcano was going to go off, and she got out of there or something. Maybe she was a government bureaucrat and knew that, like, they were digging, deep, and to get out of there. You don't actually need any sort of, prophecy or anything to make the situation work. It could just be that, like, she was an engineer. She looked at the situation and she was like, "We're in a bad situation. Let's get out of here." Like this is not going to work. And she left with her family. Or it could be that there was, vision sent from another person in a tree, or the children of the forest, or or maybe she sabotaged it. Maybe they fucking killed them all. Um, we don't know. But I think there's some there's some pretty good explanations in there. I guess I kind of like the idea of her being like an engineer and just like figuring it out. Like, oh, this is not a good situation, but maybe it was just um, children of the forest or something. No, maybe they knew at some point they would need dragons to help deal with the others and to keep the option alive, or something like that. But why, I think the bigger, weirder thing about the Doom not even the Doom, but why all the other dragons were back, like, and how few dragons survived is kind of a weird thing. Have you ever been a fan or even cared for Howard Stern? His interview with Biden released was so curious. Released, so I was curious on your take. Um, I think a lot of us go through a period where we like paid attention to Howard Stern. I used to watch when he had his. This is way back in the '90s when he had his TV program on. I used to watch his TV program. I thought he was very funny. Of course,
Really? Oh.
I was a teenage. I was like 13, 14-year-old kid at this point, so like I thought it was funny. Um, and then he's changed so much over the years now. So now he's like a serious interviewer now. You know,
Mm.
Carmine, you went through your periods of Howard Stern, right?
Remember one of my early videos? I would end it with a Baba Booey.
Yeah, yeah.
We had on for season one of House of the Dragon. We had on my friend Joker, and like you could tell he was an old school fan of mine because he ended that fucking podcast with a Baba Booey. But yeah, I did. I really liked when he had on Artie Lang before Artie and his
Hmm.
self deletion attempt. I say self deletion because I don't want to say the word and get you demonetized. But
Right.
yeah. But no. Howard Stern. Do you mind if I give my take on this super
Sure,
chat?
sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so Howard Stern, I used to listen to him all the time, every day, a couple of years ago, and then something just clicked. He got boring. He got rid
Hmm.
of various people who were fucking hilarious. He keeps Sal and Richard like tamed as fuck, which is so dumb. Ronnie is gone. Ronnie, the limo driver, who was hilarious.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if you were around for Ronnie's and his antics. Ronnie's gone. Ronnie's retired. A lot of the Whack Pack are gone. Eric the actor's dead. Like just he's really tamed himself, and that's
Yeah.
not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not
I
as
mean,
funny.
he's
I
changed. It's strange because it's like, he's so much older. So him like taking on this maturity like moment of his life when he's, because what's his age? Is he like 60 something?
He's like over 70. He's always maintained this one thing about the 2016 election, that if Hillary Clinton came on,
Hmm.
she probably would have gotten more votes. Maybe that would have been true. Maybe that would have been even more true back in 2010 when he had more relevance. Now, no. No one cares about Howard Stern now. He has no relevance. Biden coming on a Howard Stern show, I don't think really helps Biden that much, because no one cares about Howard Stern.
I
He's a
mean, some
relic
people
of the
still,
old man.
so we, keep in mind that there is this whole segment of society that lives in their car. And so there are a lot of people that really do care about like satellite radio and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't know, but like, um, it's interesting that I mean, he does serious interviews now where where he gets good information. And I think, um, but yeah, I mean, he's not the shock jock that he used to be, way back in the day. But it's weird to become like a mature man at 70,
Well,
versus like when he was 35, like,
here's the thing. I don't blame him for growing the fuck up and not wanting hookers on all the time and doing blackface. However, in this new era, why would I pay $30 a month for Sirius XM when I could just listen to a podcast on Spotify for free? Why do I want to listen to this old man who's completely and utterly out of touch with everything, and he is, when I could just listen to like a YouTube video, and YouTube videos have evolved. Like everyone nowadays is doing like
mm,
a 1 hour video about like something in depth into what they enjoy. You do it. Or why listen to Stern when you can listen to Rogan or listen to a spooky podcast or whatever other audiobook out there? There's more options.
I mean,
So
right. But it's all, I mean, I'm sure he appeals um, to people. I'm sure there's people that have been listening to him for years that are super loyal. Um, he's also, I mean, he's obviously like now that he's very serious and grounded and like, you know, obviously he's going to have better, more thoughtful questions than Joe Rogan. You know, like even though Joe Rogan's the most popular in the world, right? But the guy's a fucking idiot. So I don't
Hmm.
know. So it's weird. Anyway, I've watched bits of the Biden interview. It's very good. It's very um it was interesting because like uh he was like people were even accusing Howard Stern of like getting fed questions by the administration because some of them were like too detailed to believe that Howard Stern would be asking them. And he's like, no, I just like they didn't tell me to do anything. I asked the questions and like they didn't they didn't push back on any of them and they didn't give me anything. I just and they were like, oh, so he actually did know all of this like real big detail on stuff. But I don't know. It's yeah. Again, I don't listen to Howard Stern. I haven't listened to him since I was about 14 or 15. But there was a period where like because I think I want to say like around maybe 2006, I had a group of friends that were like really into Stern, and I was like, oh, he's still talking about the same stuff. Like, you can't be that fascinated with lesbians. Like, you can't. You cannot be like, you can't. Like, it's just not that interesting. Like, you know.
He did. I will say his move from XM to Sirius, and then later Sirius XM became XM. His move was really fun because of the video aspect of it. And after 2010, he kind of like lost the video aspect of it, so you couldn't see ladies writing on the Sibian and all the stupid whackpackers in the studio. So
um, let's see if there must be. Look, he still has 10 million listeners. Like, you know, it says. So I don't know. Um, so and they actually say that he hasn't really lost much of his listener base, that it's been pretty steady. So I don't know. So who knows? Um, well, and most of his listeners are actually kind of young. It says his audience is between 25 and 54. So I don't know. I
I'll tell
mean,
you why that's bullshit, real quick. I'll tell you why that's
mm,
bullshit. Because everyone gets, when they get a new car or whatever the fuck, Sirius XM is always doing a free promo, and it's usually bundled in with Spotify and so on and so forth. So I don't think they're his listeners per se. I think those are people that have Sirius XM.
right, right. I'm just saying, like people live in their cars. Like there must be just like people listening to him constantly. I don't know. So, but nonetheless, you know, Biden apparently had a very good interview with him, um, and people and New York Times was angry at Biden because he interviewed with Howard Stern rather than the New York Times. Um, oh, AOD connects with Cape Wrath. Why the faceless men weren't in Dorne. Um, Cape Wrath. I mean, we're gonna look at here. So this is what we're talking about here. Um, so the idea would be what that crap did I how did I look back. So the arm of Dorne might have connected with Cape Wrath. Could have. I guess we don't know um, if it connected with Cape Wrath or not. And then what's the significance that if the first men were in Dorne? Um, the first men weren't in Dorne, but the first men were in Dorne. Um, I mean, the Danes are a first men house. Um, but even if they were not a First Men house, it doesn't really tell me too much because, like, if you are migrating somewhere, it doesn't mean you'd have to stop in like every location along the migration route and and like settle. Um, Let me think of I'm trying to think besides the Danes, which ones are First Men. I mean, I guess the idea is that the mountainous ones have more of the First Men, but the we can look at like the Bering Strait, like how many people are settled in Alaska up there? Very, very few. For the most part, the huge population centers of the migration like ended up being in Mexico City, and things like that. Like the Mexico area got the bulk of the migration, while hardly anybody stayed up there. So I don't necessarily think that like that the arm of Dorne just connected Cape Wrath and that people went over. I think the idea is that they went through all of Dorne, walked over, but just didn't. I mean, it sounds like they did settle there, but fewer in numbers. Surprised Roose didn't claim the Lord's right to the first night with Jane Poole. He and Great John must have a few more bastards out there. Huh. Oh. I mean, that's a creepy thought. Creepy thought. But I think you'd still be talking about like not wanting to piss people off. So Lord's right to the first night is one of those things that like it didn't really exist in our world. Like people bring this up as something, and I think like people remember it and it's stuck in history books or because it's so shocking, like that this could be done. But no one was really doing that. I mean, why like how often is there going to be somebody that you want to have sex with, and then how often would you want to piss off your vassals that much? Keep in mind that like under feudalism, vassals are not slaves. Like they can leave. They do not have to stick on the land where you are. They can pick up and leave and go to a different lord. There's in the Middle Ages, there's a lot more like migration and movement and things like that. So there is, a slight difference. This idea of the Lord coming in and being like, yeah, I want to have sex with like lords right to the first night. Like who would tolerate that? And so it's kind of a made up thing, but nonetheless, George R. R. Martin put this in there. It's same with, he threw in like trial by combat and things like that. Stuff that like, how often did they really do trial by combat historically? But in practice, it's a really dumb idea to do Lord's right at the first night. It just get everybody angry at you. And so Roose is not going to have sex with Jane Poole. But man, it would be a creepy idea. Be a very, very creepy idea. I mean, I guess, Theon's the Prince of Winterfell. Is he getting Lord's right? Was Masha Heddle a spy for someone or just an innkeep? So there's some debate on this. So House Heddle were Blackfire supporters, and we don't hear of like that many different Blackfire supporters, but House Heddle is. And I think that if you say, okay, House Heddle is a Blackfire supporter, and let's say you go with the theory that Varys is a Blackfire. Okay. isn't it very interesting that such an important event like the inn at the crossroads happens, um, on how, with House Heddle being right there, um, and how this would affect the war. However, at the same time, like Varys seems to be upset about it. At least he seems to be upset about the action to Illyrio. But then again, maybe Varys and Illyrio aren't on the same page. Who knows? I mean, maybe Illyrio is the bright flame and Varys is the black fire. Who knows? And they're not on the same page. But what was she a spy? It's hard to say. Certainly, when A Game of Thrones was written, George R. Martin was not thinking about Blackfires. He perhaps had in his idea that there was going to be a Targaryen succession crisis, but he did not come up with Blackfires or anything like that. So, did he think that, House Heddle and Masha Heddle was like working for Varys or something at the time? I don't know. I don't know. I've heard some interesting theories about, Carmine, was it you that told me that there was a Marillion theory about like Marillion being somebody's spy? Or am I making that up that you brought that to me?
I'm sorry.
Carmine.
Can you say that again? Because I was. No.
There's this like there's somebody brought me a theory that actually like, and I thought you had mentioned it, that Marillion was perhaps a spy.
Oh yes. That's so fucking ironic that you bring that up because I was actually talking about that 2 hours ago. Um, yeah, no, I can't take credit for it. It's not mine, and
Yeah.
it's not new. But someone on stream chat, so it was like discussed years ago. Basically, the theory is that Marillion was always Littlefinger's creature from like the very beginning. Judging by the end of the Crossroads interaction between him and Cat, and at the
Mm,
moment Tyrion comes in, Marillion knows the deal. He brings attention to,
yeah.
and then when Marillion is in the Vale, um, Peter Baelish has his like supposed like disfigurements covered up. Like why? The Lord's Declarant hate Marillion. He made fun of them all the time. So
It's
like
true.
what's going on here? And even Littlefinger even tells Sansa like I have my arrangements with Marillion. Like what does that mean?
Right. I mean, everything with regards to Marillion's story in A Feast for Crows is shady and suspicious as anything. Like, why is he confessing? What happens to him? Um, why is Sweet Robin hearing his singing? There's so much weirdness with Marillion, in A Feast for Crows. And it is such a remarkable coincidence that Cat runs into Tyrion at the end of the crossroads, and there's this whole like situation there. Um, but my the only thing is that like a Game of Thrones is filled with random coincidences and retcons and errors and whatever. It's a very sloppy book, compared to Feast and Dance. And so, like, was George really thinking about all of these things? But even if he wasn't when he wrote A Game of Thrones, could he have retconned in explanations there? Was House Heddle, a Blackfire, and in line was spying for Varys? Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, what we do know is this: that Yoren, for some reason, stops at the inn at the crossroads with Tyrion, and then Yoren heads to King's Landing and to tell Ned about the kidnapping, but Varys knows before Ned, so which makes it seem like Yoren is an agent of Varys. But I guess it doesn't, But was Yoren the one that brought Tyrion in there at that time on purpose? Um, was Marillion a spy? Ugh, so much, so much. So, I mean, it's certainly more fun to think that Masha Heddle was in on all of this, that she'd planned it all, that she was a Blackfire, that she was working for Varys. How does Varys being Rugen impact the Jaqen stuff? Huh. Well, so I do have this theory that that at least Blackfire supporters are paying the the faceless men. And I do think that I'd never actually thought about Rugen before, but I think it fits into the theory nicely. So one of the big things is when Jaqen um, pays the gold to Pate in the prologue of A Feast for Crows. Pate doesn't recognize the king. He just says some king. Um, and of course, like Pate's, I mean, knowing like two kings is not that hard. It's either Aerys or it's Robert. It's not going to be some king, right? Like, um, that's going to be all the dragons going back for like several generations. Um, and then Arya as well finds a dragon and she can't figure out the face, and she says, some king. And we do have a situation in the Hedge Knight, or it's the Mystery Knight, where Dunk looks at a dragon and can't figure out the king, and then realizes it's Daemon Blackfire, and that was the reason he was having trouble. And so this idea that somehow in the possession of the Faceless Men is Blackfire gold, the same Blackfire gold that we come across in the Hedge Knight, that they minted their own gold, and that this has been paid to them. So this idea that like the Faceless Men have a job that the Blackfires want them to do is an interesting idea, which is why I kind of say, well, who would they want killed? They'd want Bloodraven killed, maybe, and so maybe Jaqen wants a glass candle to try to find Bloodraven to kill Bloodraven. But how they ended up in the Black Cells is always a mystery. Because if somebody, this is an environment where if you do a crime that's bad, they would execute you. And if you do a crime that's light, you wouldn't be in the Black Cells. The Black Cells is perfect for political prisoners. Why would Jaqen, Rorg, and Biter be in the Black Cells? Why would anyone take them alive and keep them there? It doesn't, it doesn't make any sense. However, if, Varys, as Rugen, allowed them into the Black Cells because he eventually wants them to be brought to the wall as Night's Watch recruits, that could, that could be something, because they're trying to get north and go north of the wall and find Bloodraven or something, and that this would be like step one of that process. So as Rugen, he could sneak them into the Black Cells, and then they could be then brought out of the Black Cells and go north. So I think I hadn't thought about the Rugen aspect of things before, but I suppose it falls right into the nice little theory of the Blackfires are hiring the Faceless Men. Could Asha rule via her son? If she names the baby Theon, it would relate to Aeron's visions. You think she'll marry Tris Botley? So I mean, the Asha's plan, or what's foreshadowed at least, is that a Dance with Dragons begins in the Wayward Bride chapter, and she has sex with Tris Botley, or she has sex with Carl the Maid, and then Carl the Maid reminds her of the nullification of the Kingsmoot because a major claimant was not there, and therefore you can do the Kingsmoot again. And she has this eureka moment where she's like, "Oh my gosh, I can nullify the Kingsmoot because a major claimant wasn't there." And so you're thinking she needs Theon, because Theon is definitely a major claimant, and he was not at the Kingsmoot. Now, if she did the Kingsmoot again, let's say she gets Theon and brings him back, the thing is, she couldn't use her son as the claimant. One, because the son is minor and he's a bastard, but like two, he's beyond that, he wasn't even conceived at the time of the Kingsmoot, so he wouldn't have been a claimant, that like an excluded claimant. So it needs to be Theon. It needs to be Theon to undo the Kingsmoot. He's the only one that really fits that. Now, if they did the Kingsmoot again, and put her baby forward as a as a claimant, would anyone vote for him? I don't know. I don't know why they would vote for him over, say, Theon. Like, I mean, or Asha or anybody else. Like, keep in mind that like we went to a Kingsmoot and everybody kind of put forward like the things they did and how they're going to rule. A baby can't do that. A baby would be a really, she could put forward that baby. No one's going to vote for that baby. No one's going to be like, Asha's bastard baby, woo! Like, Asha's bastard baby king. Like, it's just, that just would never happen. He just doesn't have any, he doesn't have any resume. So, and then, you know, if she's trying to have it inherit with Greenlander law, then I don't know. I don't think it would work with a bastard. She, Cat releasing Jaime for no benefit during a war is insane. Like Napoleon releasing the heir to the Russian Empire prior to the Battle of Waterloo, or Carmine giving up his last calzone for nothing. A lot of people criticize Catelyn's decision, and I have to admit that at the time, it's a long shot Hail Mary kind of decision, but it turns out Cat's right. Like, first of all, like her losing, like Rob losing the Karstarks, you know, he loses like between 500 and 1,000 men. Like, it's not going to make a difference. But he's still losing the war. He's still having the Red Wedding and all of that. I don't think those Karstark men are really doing much. But the idea of like you're giving up this like incredibly valuable hostage. I mean, it turns out that like Jaime was going to honor that and is still trying to honor that decision, that agreement. So, you know, it's not necessarily a bad trade. You're talking about like the recognized heir of Winterfell for a non-inheriting member of the Lannister family. Like, keep in mind, Jaime has no value in a feudalistic sense. He inherits nothing. Yeah, he's important because he's Jaime Lannister, but he's never going to rule. He can't inherit anything. He has no feudal, you know, he can't marry. He has no like feudalistic value. Sansa, very, very valuable. It turns out, you know, as heir to Winterfell and certainly able to marry people. Now, was Cat lucky? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. At the time, it was like seemed like an incredibly boneheaded move, but it turns out she happened to be right. Luckily, so I think it's it's a weird situation. It's one of those situations where it should have not worked out. You're right, but somehow it was like the smartest thing she did. You know. Because you start thinking about like everything that happened to Jaime and like how that's going to relate and how it's going to like, you've got this character who's now reforming and loses his hand and has a schism with with Cersei and is trying to save Sansa and peacefully, has River Run surrender and things like this. It's I don't know. Everything Kat did was kind of was luckily right, though she couldn't have predicted that. Um oh, this is an interesting one. Hold on. Do you think Tyrion and Robert B were friends? They have a lot in common: drinking, women, joking, tragic past story about losing their true loves, horrible men that they end killing. Um, they should, and it sounds like they did bet on and gamble on and stuff, but at the same time, like Robert's into fighting and um, Tyrion doesn't really have that much experience. Didn't have very much experience with that. He can't really relate to him on so many things. There's also a significant age difference between them. So, do you think Tyrion and Robert B were friends, as they have a lot in common: drinking, women, joking, tragic past stories? Um, well, the one I identified as interesting comes up as a super chat. But yeah, no, I do think that it's I think because of the age difference and um, Robert really being more interested in fighting and things like that. I mean, they probably could talk about jousting. They could talk about horse flesh and stuff like that. Um, the thing is like it's not like Robert can talk to Tyrion about going to sex workers because this is the Queen's brother. You know that's not going to happen. Um, they could talk about wine and they could talk about jousting. But Tyrion, he's an academic. He's going to be wanting to talk about like maester this and readings, and Robert's going to be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So, I mean, they have a few things they could talk about, but I think because of the age difference and the political things, I mean, he's a Lannister, it's just not gonna kind of work out. Um, now I think Renly and Tyrion, are they? That's the Renly is around the same age as Tyrion. They should really be more friends. Though I mean, they gamble. They do the same. They have the same relationship, but we never hear about that either. Um, do you think the God's Eye MacGuffin is a Fast and the Furious reference, or the other way around? I don't think that. Um, I don't think that they are in reference to each other. I mean, God's Eye in Ice and Fire comes first, but the thing is like the term God's Eye, like it's not exactly something that doesn't come up in um, in other writings of like in history, like taking the eye of God. It's like talking about the mouth of God or the hand of God or the finger of God, um, the ear of God. It does, you could all of these things. You're just taking a body part and adding it to God. So it's the but the weird thing about hold on a second. The God's Eye. Huh. You know what's funny that I'd never thought of it before, but we don't know about the possessive God's Eye. A God. So in the text here, I'll show you this. Look at that. In the text, there's no possessive. God's eye, God's eye, God's eye. What do they mean? Like, do they mean God's eye? Like more than one God's eye? Or a God's eye? Because this is not a monotheistic culture, right? Like the first, like whether you're the first men or the faith of the seven or whoever, like you're not monotheistic. Um, Even the religion of R'hllor believes there's two gods. Whose eye? The god's eyes? Shouldn't it be eyes? If it's like a bunch of weirwood trees like looking around, like would be the god's eye. But even if you're looking at the continent, why would it be God's eye? Did they used to be? Was there a monotheistic culture before that called it God's eye when looking at the map? And kind of weird, right? Like in order for somebody to like think about it, it's like because they're on the ground. The only person, I guess they're on the ground. Why would they assume that it would be like an eye, a God's eye? I mean, we have these examples of like in Nazca, Peru, like them making these animal shapes on the ground and they have no idea what they actually look like, but they are imagining what a god looking down on the designs would look like. The Nazca lines. I have to show you the Nazca lines. They're interesting. I went to Peru once, and I went and you get in a plane and you go up and you see the Nazca lines, but like it's an interesting kind of like idea because you know so they're all from like 1000 AD. So the people here in Peru, like they knew they wanted to have like a picture of a spider or an ant or whatever this is. A spider. They will never know what it looks like, right? They can't fly, but they imagined what a spiritual being from above like would think and did the designs and were like, okay, we did our Nazca lines. It's such a weird hidden, it's like this hidden monument, right? That they can never appreciate. But to name the god's eye, have to be thinking about the same thing. But then like somebody looking up from above would see it as an eye. Now maybe there were people flying around on dragons back then. I don't know. But when it was named. But why are they naming it God's eye? It doesn't make any. I mean, a silly question, but you made me think about like something like the possessiveness of it. God, like God, a God's eye, a God's eye. Which God? Nice poker people, nerd. Yeah. Wow, I'm way back. Just finished Fallout. Haven't watched your review yet. Did you guys think Lucy's training montage was to diffuse Mary Sue accusations?
No.
I mean, they just kind of established that all of the people in the shelters have military training, right?
I thought it was to establish that all the people in the shelter in the vaults can, if they so choose, because there are a couple of obese people in there,
Yeah.
can leave an active lifestyle, and this is the type of lifestyle they could lead. That Lucy
Hmm.
is someone who is a very happy, peppy person. She'd be track star in high school or
Right.
captain of the cheer team. Like, she's not a Mary Sue by any. Not that. this guy is saying that, but she sucks at a lot of stuff. She sucks at a lot of stuff. By the way, someone pointed this out to me. I didn't realize it. You ever notice during the show when Lucy's like facing a problem and she always hesitate before she answers anybody's question? You ever notice that?
No, I didn't.
That's kind of like in the game. So when someone asks you a question in the game, you have to pick your choices of what you want to
Oh,
say.
so the joke is that she's picking choices from the. That's
Yeah,
funny.
I love that. That's great.
Um, I it just makes me so the if there's a montage, like I'm thinking of did you see what's the Will Smith apocalypse movie where he's in New York City?
I Am
Um
Legend.
I Am Legend. Like they montaged him like doing all of his training, just kind of seeing what his day-to-day life is. I think it was probably
That's what
more
I'm
to
thinking.
that. They just like we need to
Yeah.
establish like what day-to-day life is like for a vault person. So you to get them to know these characters because I mean we do the same thing with the brothers, right? You kind of see what their day-to-day life is like, and I think that's more to do with it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if people like. Do you think like YouTube complaints about Mary Sue's has like changed media? Like, I don't
I
even
wouldn't
know
be
if they.
surprised.
I don't know if they pay attention to it. I don't know. I don't know if like.
I honestly, homie, I wouldn't be surprised because how couldn't they?
Mm,
It's gotten to the point where it's even infected my mind now. Now every time I watch something like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or whatever the fuck, and I see someone who is not a non-white character, I hate that my first thought is, was this person hired because they want to avoid the racism allegations or because that person's actually a good actor? And I hate that I think that, but it's kind of infected the brain because
mm,
now the whole thing is what's the fucking new word they're using now? They can't use critical race theory anymore. Nobody cares about that. The new thing
mm,
is DEI, um, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which that's such a fucked up thing to throw at anybody. But like,
mm.
maybe, maybe
I mean,
like
it's just
yeah,
it's just renaming the same thing, right? We're talking like tokenism, right?
I
Yeah.
guess, but like that's so fucked up to even like think about. You know, like for example, the Acolyte trailer. I sent it to you. Did you ever watch it? The Star Wars Acolyte
Yeah,
trailer.
yeah, I watched it.
Do you notice there wasn't a lot of like white males in there? Which there's nothing wrong with that, but I wonder if like there's something else going on behind there, and I hate that I wonder that. But these like the whole bullshit grifter thing really has infected the brain.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but at the same, I mean, I don't know. I mean, people have been doing it forever, but um,
Have they? Like, you're old enough to remember. Captain Cisco was the first ever black
sure.
captain on Star Trek. Did they complain about Cisco?
Yeah.
They did. I don't
Oh
remember it.
yeah.
I was such a
Oh
kid. I
yeah.
was
It was like, oh,
okay.
you had to make him like the angry black man, like captain guy. He's got to be
Was Cisco
that.
angry? Like, I love Deep Space Nine. Cisco was not. He. I mean, he got pissed off for the right reasons, but he
keep
was
keep
more
him keep him keep in
intimidating.
mind that the person before this is Jean-Luc Picard, like, and the movies hadn't come out yet, so like Jean-Luc Picard
Hmm.
is like the gentleman captain. Um, and certainly like the all the complaints about Lando Calrissian, which were, and
Of
keep in mind
course.
Lando Calrissian was 100% put in because George Lucas was upset because people had made complaints about Star Wars that there weren't any black characters, and he's like, "Crap, they're right. That was really stupid of me to not have black characters." And so he purposely put in Lando Calrissian because he needed a black character. And then everyone's like, "Oh, you had to have the black character, and then you made him a pimp." And there were all these like complaints about how he put Shaft into his movie and stuff like this. Yeah, absolutely. This was a huge deal at the time. Um, and then it just kind of goes away, and everyone's like, "Well, Lando is just like there." Um, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, eventually people get used to everything, right? Everybody gets used to it.
I want to
Um,
be you're right. I want to be like this is completely random. I want to we were having this discussion multiple times. I feel like I've had this discussion so many times in the last 48 hours. JK
mm,
Rowling is absolutely atrocious when it comes to any diversity in her shit. So you have not read the Harry Potter books, but your wife has, right?
yes, she's a
Ask
huge
your
fan.
wife later. Ask your wife later about all the diversity characters in JK's books. I'll give you a couple. Try to guess where they're from, or try to guess what ethnicity they are. Cho Chang,
Okay.
or Lee Jordan.
Lee Jordan?
Lee Jordan. What's
Where's
his
Lee Jordan
ethnicity?
from?
Oh, he's a black guy. Get it? Because like
Oh, like Michael
uh,
Jordan? Oh, gee.
yeah. And take a stab at what British J.K. Rowling gave student Seamus McFinnigan. Guess what his specialty is?
He's Irish, so he's a drinker.
He did try to conjure alcohol at one point during one of his years at Hogwarts, but he's also, believe it or not, an explosions expert.
Oh my, that's horrible.
And his job during the Battle of Hogwarts was to blow up the bridge.
Mm,
So so JK sucked at this. However,
yeah,
I will say she did try. There was an JK's always had like sagas of her life. Right now we're into the weird trans hate saga,
yeah,
but
yeah,
before this was the virtual signaling saga, where she didn't really have many LGBT characters in the books. And then out of the blue, because everyone's able to connect with everyone on Twitter, she's like, well, Dumbledore's gay, so blah. And like, ask your wife. If you read the books, there was no indication that Dumbledore was gay. The other thing
right.
was Hermione being black for the Cursed Child play. There was no indication that Hermione was black at all. And
Yeah,
she
yeah.
just threw that in there because she's trying to save face after the fact. I would respect her more. I know we got completely off on the topic.
Well,
I would respect.
there's a couple weird ways to like, I mean, to look at like when you're going to have a minority character in your um story. Do you have the character have traits of that community to actually represent that community, or is that stereotyping? And so you then have the character be purposely, I don't know, whitewashed or different or opposite of that, just to like try to be different. So like, I remember when I was young, there's a Sesame Street that I watched when I was a kid, and I remember it because it was like, it's honestly like, I swear, the little girl's like, I stayed over at like Shaniqua's house last night, and like we like, and the next day we I spent the night, and the next day we like, or for dinner we had fried chicken and watermelon, and the next morning we played double dutch, and you know, which is like, what's the one thing you associate little black girls with? It's like doing double dutch, right? And so, and then the end of it's like, Shanique was different from me, but that's okay, you know? And you're like, okay, like, I get it. You know, it's like embracing these like things and saying like, okay, you know, black people are different. These are the ways that they're different, and that's fine. Or you can kind of go with the, as I say, the Lisa Turtle method. Like the Lisa Turtle's black, but there is like, I think somebody mentioned there might be one episode of Saved by the Bell that even mentions that she's black. But like, she's black, but she acts like any other dumb like rich white kid in their Bayside High, right? There's nothing that sticks out about her, that's of black culture, you know. So that, you know, you can kind of go these two ways. Now, I do think that like, yeah, making somebody into a bomber is insulting, like that,
They
or
didn't make
making
him
them
into
into
a
an
bomber.
alcoholic is
He's he's not an alcoholic. He's just a kid that enjoys pyrotechnics and tried to conjure up alcoholic
right.
beverages 1 year of Hogwarts. So to be fair on that, and to the person who said, let me find this asshole here. The person who said, where are you? I'm gonna find you, you little fuck. Dumbledore being gay is heavily implied in the books. Carmine is crazy. No, it's not, bro. No, we talk about the same. Preston, where's your wife? Get her in here. She'll back me up on this. It is never implied that Dumbledore is gay, and it doesn't matter if he is. That's not, who cares. But the point is that J.K. had a saga of her life where she had to virtual signal because she realized that in hindsight maybe the books weren't that inclusive. I would respect her more if she came out and said, It was a different time when I wrote these books, and going forward in the Harry Potter wizarding world, I will write according to the changing times with how Britain looks now and in the future. Boom, done. Acknowledge what you
Hmm.
did. Say, like, it was a different time. No one was really thinking about that. And yeah, and to the Christian Alvarez, once again, blow me. I don't give a fuck if it was subtly implied. It doesn't matter. Who cares if Dumbledore is gay or not? Cool. It doesn't matter, though. It's her going back and trying to revise it because, she had her
I,
saga of
I,
virtue
I would say
signaling.
that I don't,
Has to
I'm
stop
not
that.
sure if it's virtue signal or money because like, again, when you make stuff inclusive, you get a larger audience, you know? Um, but the thing is like, I know that for like the later movies, Dumbledore being gay is a very important plot point for the Fantastic Beast movies. But like, um, it just like Dumbledore being gay doesn't affect the plot at all. You're saying, you know,
No, it doesn't, and it's fine. Like if he is, that's fine. The Fantastic Beasts movies were thought about after the fact because
yeah,
they
yeah,
needed
yeah,
to blow this like franchise some more for more money, milk it. But for the most part, like it was never implied. And then Hermione was cast in the Cursed Child play. A black
yeah.
actress was cast. Nothing wrong with that. Everyone was complaining about it, so J.K. came in and did some
So
damage control and said,
yeah,
"I
with
never
House of
like
the
I never
Dragon,
specified it."
I had first thought that they cast the Valarians black as an incidental thing, like I was saying, like the Lisa Turtle incidental thing. But it turns out it was actually a very important part of the plot because like that eighth episode has a completely different interpretation when you have uh, like white Luke sitting there being told that he doesn't have the blood of the Valarians. Like it's a very
Well, we discussed this briefly before House of
yeah.
the Dragon came out, in case you forgot. Ryan Condal did come out and say, I made the Valarians black specifically because there's too many white people in the show. He has said that. I'm not verbatim, but
Right,
he
but
has
like
said
him
something along
making
the
that
lines.
call and then having the writers, I don't know, but
It worked out
it
in the
worked
end.
out
The
in the end.
Valarians being black, like, that worked out amazingly. But,
Mm,
like, yeah. I personally would have said, like, don't say anything, just leave it be. You don't have to address it, but
yeah, but like I say, I mean, is it incidental or are you going to have like culture and politics and everything be a part of the plot? Um, you know, it's hard and complicated when it is, or you just kind of leave it as incidental, but then people are like, why is the person even there? But so I don't know.
well, if you think about it real quick, this is something
Yeah,
Lindsay Ellis said about The Hobbit. By the way, her Hobbit reviews are amazing.
yeah, yeah.
She made a good point about the not Thranduil, Tario, the original elf character woman. Why even have a female character at all if not to give her like a love story or a love triangle? Which, yeah, sometimes, yeah. Why even add a female character at all?
I mean, that's the thing is, can't you have something be incidental? Like,
Hmm.
can't you just have a female character in there that's incidental? Like in
Exactly.
Fallout, in Fallout, Maximus's best friend, um, that character being a woman or being trans or being ambiguous, um, it's incidental. It has no impact on the plot at all. It's
Yep.
just she's there.
Yep.
It's
Dane is
it's
awesome though. I
fine.
love Dane.
It's fine. So I don't think I'm against like incidental random casting, but I understand also the don't whitewash the person. Like don't put in a black character and then have them not be black. Like like don't. But I don't know. I get both perspectives, but you're what are you supposed to do? But now it's gotten to the point where we just kind of are. Look, you put something in media long enough and it becomes normal. Like Romans
Yeah.
speaking with British accents, okay? Like people did it for so long that now like Romans speaking with British accents it just seems normal, right?
I
Like
mean,
if your Roman Senate is filled with a bunch of people speaking French accents, everyone would be like, "What? What's going on here?" But if it's a British accent, it seems normal, right? You do something long enough, it's fine. Okay? You know, every characters having waxed chests and like big burly muscles and perfect
mm,
teeth. we
Yeah.
ignore all of that, you know? And so eventually something is done long enough and you start ignoring it. Eventually, like we're going to ignore the fact that like women and black people are everywhere in different things, you know, fantasy and
You're
sci-fi. Yeah.
I'm sorry to Valerie. You're a you're a Roman history expert guy. What
Well, I mean,
accent should they
specific.
have?
I know a lot about a very specific period. Not very much.
Regardless,
Yeah, but like,
regardless, what accent should
okay.
they have if not British?
I mean, they should have none, but one would think that like that you'd realistically you'd have nothing close to something today, but you'd think it would be Italian.
I guess, but you also every time Rome is depicted on screen, they're always like pompous and douchey and have this aura of
Right.
superiority. You got to give them British accents. Every character ever, every like imperial awful faction ever in cinema always has to have a British accent because it's like that. "Aw, I'm better than you.
But
Well,
it's such
fuck
it's
you,
such it's
darling."
but it's such but you're like everything then is like through the American scope, right? You know,
I
like
know, I know. That's why the Empire is always British guys, charming to the last.
oh no. Do you think it's crazy that there were Osama bin Laden death celebrations in the U.S. Seems similar to Wilhelm the two second celebrations after World War II was won. Um, I thought it was really weird because now keep in mind I was here in D.C. and I remember I was actually downtown and I stopped at the White House because there was celebrations. And I kind of wanted to see what people were doing. And what I thought was kind of odd was that the people celebrating were not old enough to remember 9/11. It was seriously like 18-year-olds being like, woo! And you're like, you don't even remember 9/11. What are you talking about? Like what's um because like what? Like Osama bin Laden died 10 years after. Like yeah, it's like some no, it's just weird. So I don't know. People look for random reasons to celebrate whatever and do whatever. So I don't know. It's all these things that it's I don't know. I'm an old man yelling at clouds, but when I'm like, you don't even remember a world without the internet, you know? I had a beeper. It was normal once, you know? Like it's just stuff like that. It's just um I've seen all sorts of weird celebrations. So I don't know. I think people look for reasons to party. And they'll choose whatever. Um any tips for learning Arabic to impress a girl? Choose an easier language. Um, Modern Standard Arabic is very, very, very difficult. Um, now, if you want an easier Arabic to do, you pick one of the local Arabics. They say so. There's Modern Standard Arabic, and then there's your Amiya. So Amiya is like the language, the Arabic that people actually speak. So no one really speaks Modern Standard Arabic. That's you learn it in school. They might speak it on the news. No one else speaks it. Like politicians speak it to each other, but like um, then there's the local Arabics that they actually speak, and for the most part, they're not really intelligible with each other. So it's sort of like saying when you say like learning Arabic, it's kind of like saying I'm learning Romance language. You're like, well, which Romance language? Oh, I studied Romance language. You know, like there's a big difference between Portuguese and French and Romanian. So it's the same with Arabic. So like I studied for a while Jordanian Amiya and a little bit of Egyptian Amiya. And they're not difficult. They're not that difficult. Um, if you do as they say, we say Levantine. Levantine, the Levant is essentially what we talk about, like Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, Jordan. That's the Levant. And Levantine Arabic is somewhat similar, like it's comprehensible. So if you learn Lebanese, Palestinian, Jordanian, or Syrian Arabic, you can understand those four countries. So it's kind of the most useful Arabic to learn. I mean, I guess most people speak Egyptian, but because there's so many Egyptians, there's like 90 million Egyptians. I think it's like add up all the Arabs in the Middle East, and Egyptians are half. So, I mean, if you're looking for the number of speakers, you go for Egyptian Arabic. But I don't know. There's something about you get more countries if you do Levantine Arabic, but Amia is not that hard. But you know, but tips for learning, I don't know. It's you conjugate stuff kind of like in Romance languages a bit. It's kind of fun. Arabic is some stuff is fun to pronounce. It's not it's not too bad. They have a sound like that sounds like gargling and stuff like that. It's fun. So go with the Amiya. Go with an Amiya. Don't try to learn modern standard Arabic. That's way too hard. The grammar is insane. John 2 would have worked better had it established that John likes climbing too, taught Bran to climb, would also foreshadow him climbing the wall. That is a very good point, Arva Kuka. That is plus it would like give her like a reason to really hate and be angry at John. The fact that like Bran got into the climbing because John was into climbing, it would give John some guilt. It would create like the no, you really got to go to the wall. You're not sticking around here kind of thing. A real conflict. Make John climb. You're right. John being able to climb the wall would be a bigger deal. You are. That's a very good idea, and you're absolutely correct. Instead, it's just like Bran just spontaneously loves climbing when no one else in Winterfell likes climbing, and is insanely good at it. It's sort of like somebody being like really good at baseball, and there's no other baseball players. I mean, to a layman, people think, oh, climbing is just something that you just pick up, but it's like no, there's definitely like strategy and technique and everything to climbing. And Bran, yeah. Rank the shows from best to worst: Fallout, Watchmen, Last of Us, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones season 3, and Westworld season 1. Oh my lord. Carmine, you love the rankings. You got to be on this ranking list.
And from the boys,
okay, of the ones on here, I would say that I would put Game of Thrones season 1 as the best of these ones. Then I would put
season 1. I thought he said season 3.
Season 3. I'm sorry. I put Game of Thrones season 3. I would put that at the top of this list.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would then put Watchmen.
Ooh, interesting.
Then I would put Game of Thrones season 3, then Watchmen. I don't know. I'm really torn on these last ones because these last ones are like much more flawed. Each one's more flawed. Because Westworld season 1's got major flaws. House of the Dragon has major flaws. Like they're all good, but I think I'd put maybe Last of Us is the last one. Then maybe Westworld season 1. Okay. Here's my list. Okay. Game of Thrones season 3, Watchmen. do I put Fallout ahead of House of the Dragon? What do you think?
I already got my list set.
Okay, what is it?
So I would put Game of Thrones season 3 first,
Yeah.
Westworld season 1,
Ooh.
then Watchmen, then Fallout, then House of the Dragon, then Last of Us. I
Okay.
played Last of Us. I think the game is superior. The show was fine,
Yeah. I'm
but
surprised you put
Last of Us
Westworld that high. You really loved Westworld that much. Yeah.
season 1,
Yeah. I
bro.
think
If
it's
if
good.
every
I'm
single
just,
season, if every single season of Westworld season, if every single West, let me restart.
yeah.
If every single season of Westworld was as good as season 1, there's your Game of Thrones replacer. But it
Yeah,
wasn't.
it's true. Yeah.
Season 1
Yeah.
was amazing.
Season 1 was good. It was good. Um, um, I guess the problem with Westworld, I think I watched it too much to do my videos, and like it's like once you watch it too much, like everything starts falling apart. But I'd say Game of Thrones season 3. I would put Watchmen next. Then I would put Fallout, House of the Dragon, Well, maybe I put Westworld season 1 ahead of House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon, then Last of Us. I put Last of Us last. But yeah. Um, House of the Dragon. People right now have real. I mean, look, I like House of the Dragon. It was on my top 10 like best shows of that year. But people have this like rose colored like glasses with House of the Dragon. Like they're like, oh, it was so awesome. I'm so happy for it to come back. And then you kind of remind them like a dragon did like pop out of the floor. Like Kristen Cole did beat a man to death and nothing happened to him. Damon like had a god mode like where he was just like running through a battle like and not getting killed like ridiculously. Like you kind of, and then people go, oh right, oh yeah, no, that did happen. Oh right, oh god, oh like
I mean, I'll forgive that simply because when House of the Dragon came out, it'd been 3 years, almost 4 years since anything Thrones related, and we were waiting desperately for anything. So I'll forgive it. It was fine. It was better than season 8. Therefore, yay! It
yeah,
was
yeah,
fine.
yeah. Will Quentin visit his mom in the Winds fanfic? I have not decided on that. It does seem like it's something he might want to do, but it's the logistic of like him going all the way to Norvos and back might be too much. I mean, granted, he has a dragon. He's not a rider yet or whatever, but there is this question about him getting up to Norvos and back, and if it's worth it for that, or maybe it's a chance to bring her down to Volantis. I don't know, but um, but that is it's a good question, and it's something that I have not decided on yet. Kind of just what I know about the Quentin story is I kind of know he's going to be heading on the Demon Road to get to Volantis, and there's a lot of Volantis plot that has to happen before that. There's going to be a Sam chapter in Volantis, and Quentin's going to get there, and then eventually Danny. So there's a lot of Volantis story to deal with. So I don't know. Let's see. Is there room for the mom? Oh, I was like, why does Tywin publicly execute Red Tooth Heddle? I was like, Red Tooth Heddle, is this character I don't know? And then I was like, oh right, Masha Heddle, like choose sour leaf. Of course.
If I didn't know any better, this guy tried to get one over on you.
I know. Um, this is a really weird. Like, I do think that Tywin's execution of Masha Heddle is is a little ridiculous. Like he does it. I mean, he does. Does he have any reason at all, or is he just like he's just like he's doing it just to like he's treating all the Riverlanders like he's punishing all the Riverlanders for the war, right? For supporting Robb. And so he's purposely sent out the brave companions and the Mountain's Men and Amory Lorch to, harry the Riverlands and just cause trouble. And he does the same. Like he executes Masha Heddle for no reason. She hasn't done anything. Like, it's just that she's a Riverlander, and he's just going to kill whatever Riverlander. I think that's the only explanation to it, is that he just kills her because she's a Riverlander, and that's it. Like there's no real reason for it's also like kind of like the logic to the brave companions and the Mountain's Men and Amory Lorch's men, like just brutalizing the Riverlands, also doesn't have very much like motive. Like, why is Tywin doing this? How does militarily it benefit you to just have like you brutalizing civilians when you have like clear military objectives? Like these are sellswords. Like take a castle. Like don't just like spend your time like brutalizing civilians. But I don't know. Maybe. I mean, you're obviously supposed to think that uh, that Tywin's horrible, and that this is supposed to maybe make the lords think twice about messing with the Lannisters anymore, or something, or supporting lords that mess with the Lannisters or something. So what's this, Carmine? R.I.P. Drizzy.
Oh, Jack, I'm assuming you're talking about Drake, or bro, who the fuck is Drizzy? Who the
It
fuck is
seems to be
Drizzy?
related to
It's
Kendrick
Drake.
Lamar.
Yeah, it's Drake. By the way, with 3 minutes into your live stream today, Drake dropped his response to Kendrick.
Oh, nice. It's
Yes. I actually have the white delegation sent me a translator. Shout out to Will from Texas, who translated the diss for me. Would you like me to catch you in real quick on Drake's response?
sure.
According to the white ambassador, Drake addresses the pedophilia allegation. He calls it a lie, and he says that Kendrick only cares about it because Kendrick got molested as a kid. Also, Drake says he's too famous to be a pedo and that he'd be in jail if he really was one. Says he doesn't look at teenagers despite making out with underage girls on stage. Drake continues to push Dave Free at Whitney's as Whitney's baby daddy. Dave Free is Kendrick's record exec and partner, and Whitney is Kendrick's fiance. Drake continues to call Kendrick a domestic abuser and that his fiance Whitney fears him. And Drake also said in the song that Kendrick didn't do the due diligence on Drake's daughter's rumor. So, once again, I do want to thank the white delegation for their translation of this song. I was not able to do it myself.
Yeah. Too famous? He would have been caught? I mean, doesn't everyone know that like Diddy was
Wait,
like
wait, your face. On the chat, the stream is a little ways back. Your face as I'm explaining to this, you're, you're like trying to make sense of it. Like, what? Huh? What's going on here?
I know. Anyway, sorry for missing this earlier. Ash, thank you for keeping critical thinking alive in the A Song of Ice and Fire community with your videos. Appreciate you, King Preston. No, thank you so much. This just kind of like, it's just kind of fun. Like everything about like analyzing Ice and Fire this long is just kind of fun. Like even when it's ridiculous, like we're talking about, like I made jokes before about Cat like shitting like shitting in Bran's room for a week and things like that. And no, that's what happened. Or her running across the room and having Ned's semen drip from her legs, like from her while she's yeah, that happened too. Because you just gotta use your critical thinking for all this very, very important issues. Um, but I don't know what Drizzy is thinking about with like famous people are get caught up in this stuff all the time. Like I say, like Diddy, and I mean even the old people like David Bowie was had issues, or the guy from the Who, and all of these people. I mean, I guess they eventually get caught. It sounds like Drake gets caught. Hmm.
This is a good one. Read that one because
Oh, that the Romans would have a lot more W's in their language. It is true that so in Latin there there's some discussion about there was no J and I, and there was no W, and various things like this. So like there's some discussion about whether or not it was pronounced Jupiter or Uepiter, and the same with like V's and W's, and so there are schools of thought that are like, no, depending on the context, they figured it out and they knew. And there's also some people who are like, no, these sounds didn't exist and things like this, depending on the consonant. I don't I'm no expert on the on the link on how Latin sounded. Um, but it is true that it's not going to sound like how we think it is. But nothing ever sounds like how we think it is. Accents shift and change like every 200 years. Americans, it's funny because like even if you're going to have like, say you're going to do something on Thomas Jefferson, okay, Thomas Jefferson's accent, we have no idea what that accent sounded like. So if you're going to portray him, are you going to have an American guy do it? Like, because he doesn't sound like a modern American. He doesn't. He sounded like something else. So, um, even these like some people were. I think that what's the movie with Richard Gere, where he plays
Pretty Woman.
Lancelot.
Oh, never mind.
Richard Gere Lancelot. Yeah, you're like Pretty Woman. Yes, Richard Gere Lancelot. That movie's called First Night. So a lot of people criticize this movie because they're like, oh, it's really weird to have Richard Gere with his American accent, like running around in a show in a movie about the British Isles. Um, but at the same time, like when Arthur existed, if he existed at all, like and when this happened, we had no idea what their accents were like. None. You know. Not to mention they were speaking some old English, Middle English kind of thing, so we have no idea. So, um, do the White Walkers' roots reach the crypts of Oh, do the werewood roots reach the crypts of Winterfell? That's a very good question. We don't know how far down the werewood roots go, and it may be that the whole point of the um, the tombs is that they're beneath the roots, as another like piece of protection against like their souls getting into the werewoods. Like we're gonna dig even so deep that the trees can't get in there. Um, but let me think. It's a good question though about how far do let's see who has the deepest roots. Some can go. There's something called a shepherd's tree that can have roots go 23 feet deep. Wow. But How deep do oak trees go? Let's just say. Mature oaks, they only go down 3 feet. Huh. 3 feet isn't very. That's really 3 feet is nothing. Huh. On average, tree roots. Huh. I guess there's. Huh. I guess when you see, I never. I guess you always think that the roots are going so deep, but I guess it's right that like the roots kind of spread out more horizontal, and that would be more useful in keeping the tree up, I suppose. Once you're going down, it's just clay. So yeah, I mean, I imagine that the crypts are going to be beneath the roots. I'm just also like, how far do the roots are kind of in Bloodraven's cave? That's a fair amount. That's a fair depth. It does seem that like the werewood roots go deeper than regular trees if they're sitting there going through Bloodraven. Um, then but the way huh, maybe they purposely. I mean, obviously the lower levels are much deeper than the roots, but I don't know about the. I have to check the Theon chapter to see how many flights of stairs they go down again. The McNulty actor pulled off a Baltimore accent. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. No, his Baltimore accent was not good. there's this scene in season 5 where he tries to put on this Baltimore accent to try to be this character, and it's like, I don't know what you're doing. I would say the McNulty actor put on a fairly believable American act, like general American accent, but there's nothing particularly Baltimore about his accent at all. Um, no, no, no. Which is funny because like a lot of the extras were straight up Baltimoreans, and you can hear like there's this one white guy with a mustache in the wire. It's like an old white guy with a mustache, gray hair, gray mustache. He's got the most Baltimore accent ever, and I was like, whoa. If you ever see The Wire, but the McNulty accent, no, 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 no. I'm trying to remember. I mean, Snoop is actually. Oh, this guy. Yeah, here he is. If you ever watch the Wire again, like this dude is one. He's so it's so thick. It's so thick, and the girl who does the Snoop is. I think she's straight up Baltimore, black Baltimore accent, but um and my friend PJ, I mean, he tried to thicken up his Baltimore accent, but he's a kid of the suburbs. Um, the yeah, thank you again, Ash. I'm sorry you had to post this twice. Okay, getting to the end.
Real
Feeling
quick, real
good.
quick. I wanted to bring this up because of what Ash said, and that's a very nice thing to say because Preston is a super chill dude. I discussed this with you privately on Facebook. Do you want me to bring it up now in the Tales of the Empire? I was in that
Oh, sure,
YouTuber's
sure,
stream
sure.
chat. So Star Wars released for May the 4th, Tales of the Empire. I don't know if you want to talk about that because I don't know if you want to watch it, but Tales of the Empire released, and of course, the usual suspects, the Star Wars channels, were covering it. And the biggest Star Wars channel, Star Wars Theory, did
Mm,
a live stream party thing where he watched it and so on and so forth. His fucking stream chat. Holy shit.
yeah.
What an awful, toxic place. And what pisses me off about this guy the most is he's a jacked guy. Like he works out, he's got muscles. For a guy who's jacked, he's such a fucking pushover to his audience because his audience keeps saying fired, like Dave Filoni sucks, fire Dave Filoni, and he's like, no, guys, Dave Filoni's doing a good job. Bitch, fight back. You don't want these types of people as your audience because they're Mauler's audience that have infected his. Dave Filoni has been doing a pretty phenomenal job, and Dave Filoni is George Lucas's protege, but he will not fight back. He will not like moderate his chat to like stop these assholes from like yelling woke, a trans agenda, like stupid bullshit like that. And the reason I bring this up is because like your community is pretty chill. Even though you're not the biggest Ice and Fire channel, I have to also kind of branch into this direction for a sec. Props to Alt Shift X because Alt Shift X is the biggest Ice and Fire channel, and his community is not an asshole community either. Like his community is pretty chill. So juxtaposed to Star Wars Theory, who's the biggest Star Wars channel, his community is a bunch of douchebags. Holy shit, toxic as fuck.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of. Yeah, I mean I wouldn't describe any Ice and Fire like fans or groups as toxic. I understand that we've all had our like random pieces of drama, but you don't. But it's also it's a very Ice and Fire fans are very different from Star Wars fans to start with, right? Which is kind of funny because there's not much difference between George Lucas and George R. Martin in terms of like their political beliefs, what they were trying to achieve, and what they did in the end, right? Like they're both very focused on Vietnam. They're both like hippies. They're both very left wing. They're they tried to have this very political message, very political stories. And for the most part, like, yes, Game of Thrones has lots of fans, but like Ice and Fire, it tends to be people that are like, well, yes, I understand that like this is a political story and we're going to read into those themes and talk about those themes and address those themes. Star Wars, it's not that we don't have those fans there, but like it's for people that want lasers and shit and lightsabers and lightsaber fights, right?
I hate to cut you off here, but let me. I also forgot the one thing. I enjoy watching Star Wars Explained because he actually goes into like he doesn't do like bullshit politics or whatever. He doesn't talk about Kathleen Kennedy or shit behind the scenes. He talks about the fucking material. Right? He doesn't bitch about anything. He talks about what's going on in the novels, the comics, the games, so on and so forth. Star Wars Explains community is actually super chill and nice. No one is over here complaining about shit. And I want to call out this one person here, Lucas Vieira. Go fuck yourself, because he said, yeah, no, fuck him. He goes, any criticism today is seen as toxic. No, asshole, that's not true. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the anti-fans who want everything to fail because they're upset that the franchise doesn't need to cater to who they are anymore. Star Wars doesn't need to cater to just white guys anymore. And you guys are clearly upset about that. That's why it's all the bitching constantly going on. If you want to say the show sucked because the acting wasn't good, the music sucked, the story was bad, cinematography was bad, those are fair criticisms. But to sit there and say, this is bad because trans, this is bad because woke, this is bad because black, like, that's clearly what's happening. And you're just going out of your way to ignore that. You know what you're doing. You're trying to gaslight the whole situation. And you're not going to do that with me, motherfucker. It's not going to happen. Preston's the nice one. I'm not. Go fuck yourself.
I'm not sure what Lucas was.
Type his name in there, Lucas. You'll see.
Well, I mean, I'm saying he's saying that any criticism today is seen as toxic, but yeah, I think what Carmine is saying is that, and Carmine is emotional about this because he's a huge Star Wars fan, and like for some reason like pays attention to Star Wars Theory.
Preston is my anger translator, please. Translator, please.
And so the thing is, it's not that I don't think that the word toxic is overused because it can
It
be.
is.
And I don't know
Yeah.
if Lucas is just getting on the idea that toxic is an overused term, but specifically with what Carmine is talking about with um, the Star Wars theory community, Star Wars theory, not Star Wars theory, like all capitals. The YouTuber Star Wars theory and his community is that they're very focused on oh my god they cast a woman, oh my god they cast a black person, oh my god they're
Like,
trying
who
to be
cares?
woke and all of that kind of stuff. um you know, the it's it's not quite as bad as nerdrotic, but it's like, you know, adjacent, right?
What annoys
um
me is that Star Wars Theory, he's actually a normal dude. My problem with him is he's a fucking pushover pussy. He'll have on Mauler and Nerdrotic and this one other alt-right guy, Ryan Kinnell, and
mm,
like it's very clear that Theory likes Dave Filoni, and it's very clear that these other guys have never seen anything Dave Filoni has done besides Ahsoka and like
yeah.
whatever the fuck else. They're casual fans, nothing wrong with that, but they're very easily convincing Theory that Filoni sucks when he doesn't, and Theory's just like yeah, yeah. Okay, it's like you convincing me that like Littlefinger's an asshole, and me going, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe she shouldn't be my favorite character. It's like, no, bitch, have a backbone. Come on, what are you doing?
Yeah, Justin brings up an interesting point that no one else is watching Star Wars. That like, that maybe, you know, are the only people left watching Star Wars like the people that are hate watching it?
That's fundamentally that might be true, but it's also no one's now watching it. Like people are watching Kenobi, which fucking sucked, was one of the
Yeah.
highest, most viewed shows I think last year or the year
Mm,
before. Um, People are watching it. My problem has always been is that I hate the anti-fans. It's like you can't go anywhere without running into these people constantly complaining. It's like, dude, just don't watch it anymore. Because I'm
yeah.
a fan of Star Wars, whether it's under Disney or whoever the fuck else. I want it to do good. I want it to have good stuff. And if it sucks, it sucks. And you and I trash Kenobi, we trash Book of Boba, but we didn't trash it because, you know, fucking like minorities and shit. It's stupid. And what's annoying is that these assholes watch Rebel Moon on Double Dare You. I will give it time.
Yeah.
What annoys me is that these guys, you should care because they're going to infect our fandom too. For the
Maybe the
longest
chats are
time,
just teenagers trolling. I think that's maybe how things started, but then
no.
eventually, like, you get Trump as president, right? Like,
Yes.
like, you know, things start as the troll, and then people are like, "Oh my god, there's a market for that," and then they start putting out the propaganda for the trolls,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden, you create more trolls, and it all starts like breeding, right?
It starts infecting other fandoms. Once again, like it's gonna get to House of the Dragon and eventually Dunk and Egg when they hire like, you know, a black person to play a Targaryen. Like it's gonna happen, you know. And I hate that. I hate that it's infecting our side of the fandom because all this asshole shit is not necessary, and we all know why they're really doing it. Because it starts with talking about nerdy shit, and it really ultimately comes down to pushing you towards right wing bullshit. Because a lot of these guys who have problems with all these fandoms now, they also have in
So
common their
here's
love of Trump.
yeah. So here's the thing. It's all about the causation here. Um, see what the criticism of material being put out. Like if you want to say, as Carmine said before, if you want to say that like something that Star Wars has put out is bad, and you give the reasons why, and you say, well, it's bad because there's not a very good dialogue, or the story isn't put together very well, or whatever. There's bad editing, there's bad music, there's a million things to criticize. However, like when you see the right wing grifters, they'll say, "Oh no, the reason that this show stunk is because it was trying to push progressive values," and which is a very strange criticism, you know, because there's plenty of incredible stories that are have progressive values. I mean, you know, there's good stories that have conservative values because a good story can be a good story. Um, you know, the value of it, like, doesn't really like change it. I mean, like for instance, you know, the Avengers. is fundamentally like any of that. Like superhero stories are fundamentally conservative because it's like about preserving societies, right? But that's the thing is like when it's not when the criticism isn't like apt, it's not actually getting at the cause of what creates the bad item, like the bad show. Like House of the Dragon was pretty good. It was very, very progressive. It was like in every way it was woke, in their definitions of things in every single way. And yet it was a pretty good show. Right. So that's the whole thing is you get the stories were good, I don't think there's any causation like to if you throw in a bunch of women and black people, I don't think it makes the story good. I don't think it makes the story bad. But for some reason, like people are very convinced that it's the thing making the story bad. As if like, God damn, like Rise of Skywalker, all it needed to do is if you gave Rey a dick, all of a sudden that movie is perfect,
I wouldn't mind it.
I mean, it makes the kiss with Kylo Ren at the end more interesting.
More interesting.
Yeah.
Give her 2 dicks, 3 nipples. But no, what Mr. Wumbo here says, I mean, you guys were complaining that the guy playing Dunk isn't tall enough. True, but here's the thing: that's fair criticism. But we're not saying he's not white enough. You see the difference, Jumbo. You see the difference. Like we're complaining about something completely like dumb and stupid. That's fine, but we're not sitting here saying, "Oh man, they're gonna make Egg an Asian boy, diverse." That's what we're talking about. Like there's a very clear difference between fair criticism, like what this one person said. I forget your name. He was saying how he hates how they did Luke and Han dirty. Okay, fair. That's fair criticism. That you didn't like how the story panned out. But then there's a difference between that and then saying Asian characters really woke. That's the difference here. So.
Yeah. The issue with the black character in Kenobi was the surviving 2 lightsaber stabs, nothing else.
That's fair. That's fair.
But what does it have to do with her being black?
Well, I'm assuming Wind Sage Dragon doesn't know the character's name, and to be fair, I also forget. The only reason I know is because they kept complaining about her enough. It's Reva.
I mean, are they saying that the only reason that the story runners wanted her to survive was because they were black? They were scared of killing a black woman. Was that the idea?
Maybe. I have no idea. But what he's saying here, that's fair criticism. Like the ultimate criticism he's trying to say is that lightsabers don't mean dick in the Disney era. That's fair.
Did they mean dick? Did they mean dick in Empire Strikes Back?
Well, yeah, kinda, right? Like, doesn't Luke fuck up the Wampa with the lightsaber, get his hand cut off with it? He got
his hand cut off, and I mean, he was fine.
Right, but it cauterized the wound because it's a fucking lightsaber.
Is that how it worked? You wouldn't pass out?
Look, Preston.
You wouldn't pass out?
It, right?
You're
doing the thing.
Like, immediately.
You're fucking with me.
Like you get your hand cut off, you wouldn't pass out? And then he's sitting there going, Luke, I'm your father. It's like, I'm unconscious, dude. Or like I would pass out and fall immediately. Like, no? You don't think that would have happened?
Look, once again, like,
or maybe the force kept him awake.
There's some criticism here, but like Sabine getting stabbed through the stomach like Qui-Gon did and she still survived, that's some bullshit. We bitched about it. That's some bullshit.
Like people surviving lightsaber wounds. Like, I mean, look, if you want to say, like, I think my criticism is that the characters don't die and that there is all of a sudden stakes are lost when you don't kill characters. I would say, yeah, that is very much true, which is why I hated Return of the Jedi and the fact that at the end of that movie, every goddamn character is still alive and the heroes lost nobody. Okay, Wedge is at the party, Lando's at the party, Han's at the party, Leia's at the party, Luke's at the party, 3PO's at the party, R2's at the party. Oh gosh, even fucking Darth Vader's ghost is at the fucking party, along with Yoda and Obi-Wan. Nobody fucking dies. There's no stakes. Oh, that's fucking Star Wars. There's never been any fucking stakes. Nobody fucking dies in Star Wars. Like, it's so stupid. Okay, so I don't think there's any change. Like, oh gosh, she got stabbed in the gut and somehow survived. Like, yeah, fucking tell me about it. It's the whole fucking series, man.
Before I get off this fucking topic, because some of you motherfuckers drive me insane. When I forgot it was Nerd Roddick or someone else. Rings of Power, no one will argue, Rings of Power was not a good show. But is it really necessary to give Arendir, the Black Elf character, cornrows on your thumbnail? Is that necessary? It's kind of funny, but is that necessary? Is it really? Or having Disa, the Black Dwarf character, is it really necessary having her eating a watermelon in your fucking thumbnail? Yeah. Is that necessary? Come on, you know what I'm talking about. It's like when Nick Fuentes does that thing. He clearly hates the Jews and everybody else, and Nick always be like, "It's a joke." It's not a joke. You're a white supremacist.
That one Ewok died. Exactly. That one fucking Ewok. That one Ewok died. Everyone in the prequels died. Yeah, the you know, little different, but. But yeah, it's what was the movie in the 80s, early 90s with the blue alien chick with the third boob? You're conflating two movies. You're conflating Total Recall has the woman with three boobs, but she's not blue. And then there's the blue alien is from the Bruce Willis Fifth Element.
How do you know this?
Because I'm nerd culture literate. Like, you don't fucking remember the third boob in Total Recall, or Quoto, or any of that. Oh man.
I'll have to go back and look it up. The three boobs, Total Recall. Really, I like that movie. I don't recall this. Oh, there it is. Never mind. Yeah, I remember this scene. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to cosplay third titty chick. No, whatever.
I don't know what would you do with a third boob?
I don't know. Question for the philosophers. Honestly, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. Speaking of third boob, when are you finishing Shogun? What's going on here?
Is there a third boob in Shogun?
You'll have to find out.
I'll see what I can do. I have a very, very busy week this week, so
How many episodes you get in?
Just the one. Just one.
You only got one upfront, Preston.
All right, we have one last thing before I sign off this evening. I should have signed off. A second ago. Can you explain Renly's peach? This I almost want to like. Oh man, the peach. I mean, the whole thing is that like Stannis doesn't even understand what the peach means, right? But isn't the peach? Isn't there also the thing about Asha and Carl talking about their peach and like it representing like life and enjoying life? But I wanna let me see here. Let me actually get the Stannis quote, because he's like he says, or he's just trying to like, Renly offered me a peach at our parley, mocked me, mocked me, defied me, threatened me, and offered me a peach. I thought he was drawing a blade and went for mine own. What was the purpose? To make me show fear? Or was it one of his pointless jests? When he spoke of how sweet the peach was, Did his words have some sort of hidden meaning? The king gave a shake of his head, like a dog shaking a rabbit to snap its neck. Oh, Renly could vex me so with a piece of fruit. He brought his doom on himself with his treason. And I did love him, Davos. I know that. I swear. I will go to my grave thinking of my brother's peach. And then later he's like, why me? Renly and his peach. In his dreams, I see the juice running from his mouth. Renly and his peach. He thought he was going for his blade. I mean, I guess he's just trying to fuck with Stannis, you know, or like he knows
I always thought
Stannis
it was
is
because like a peach is delicious. It's one of life's simple pleasures, and I guess he's saying that because Stannis is a hard guy who's always on the edge, always tense, can't enjoy
right,
anything.
right. But what's odd is
Renly speaking from a position of power. He doesn't need to have a blade on him. He doesn't need to be like threatening. Have a peach.
yeah, it's a funny thing though cuz it's like thinking it from Renly's perspective. Like do you want the parley to break down and lead to war? You know, is that the result you want? And so like if you want it to break down, you're just gonna like try to piss off the other person, and then nothing's ever gonna get done. And it, you know, is the peach like part of just like fucking with Stannis, so that he you know, so that the thing breaks down, but then he has to like kill his brother. You know, he has to go to war against his brother. It's almost like Renly wants that result rather than negotiating peace. Um, like you kind of see it as this like playful thing, but at the same time, like why are you pissing somebody off when we're dealing with like very serious? We're dealing with a very serious moment. Um, so I don't know. I mean, you know, if negotiations go down, like go south, like the two brothers are fighting each other in war. That's a pretty serious situation. And Renly's just sitting there like mocking him and being like, "Have a peach." Like, what? You want to kill your brother? What's wrong with you, Renly? What's wrong with you? Renly's, you know, I actually think Renly's being a dick there. He might just be offering refreshment. Maybe it might have just been that. Thank you, Carmine, for staying with me. Thank you, everyone, for staying late with me. And um, I don't know. That's about it. See you guys next time. Thank you.